Host. So welcome to the SLA and DCA Licensing Committee for Committee Board 3. I'm going to read you a few guidelines of how we're going to run the meeting this evening. So as I mentioned, it is being recorded. If you're not a committee member, please sign in by entering your name and affiliation. If you're with any of the community groups, if you're with an applicant, or if you're just a resident interested in any of the items, please list that in the chat box. And if you would like to speak on one of the items, since we do not have speaker forms as we would at our normal meetings, please keep yourself muted unless it's your turn to speak. I gave some instructions here on the desktop computer. You can just unmute using the microphone button on the bottom left of your screen. On the phone, you can tap the mute icon at the bottom of your screen. If you do wish to speak, please raise your hand. Again, on the desktop computer, if you click the participants button at the bottom of your screen, the bottom of the list, there's a button labeled raise hand. If you're on a cell phone, if you dialed into the call, you can raise your hand by pressing *9. Also, please use the chat box to indicate you would like to speak. If you're an applicant or if you're here to speak toward an item, as we go through the items, we'll call on you when it's your turn otherwise. For each application, the chair will give a brief summary of the application as it's been submitted. Then we'll give the applicant a chance to speak. After that, we'll call in any members of the public that wish to speak or ask questions. The applicant will then have a chance to respond, and then the committee members will discuss the item. After that, the committee will then formulate and pass a resolution. So that's generally how the meeting will go. Momentarily, I'm going to flip back over to the agenda. We'll go through the items that we have on our list for tonight. Okay, sorry, it took a moment to get to that document. Okay, you should be seeing the agenda. We're going to have a few.
Oh, there it goes.
You have a few administrative things to take care of first. Then we're going to go into an alteration. We have a few items that are withdrawn this evening. Number 4, which was item Avenue A Gourmet, 202 Avenue A, has withdrawn. And number 10, Down and Out, 503 East 6th Street, has withdrawn. That does not mean they will not be coming back in the future. At the moment, they are not on tonight. Please watch the community board website if you're interested in either of those 2 items for the future. And with that, I think we're going to begin our meeting. I'm going to hand it over to our chair, Alexandra Militano.
Thank you, Clint. To be more efficient, we try to make this a two-person process or a two-person running of the meeting. So my vice chair is thankfully handling the technical aspects of this meeting. We're going to start with the approval of previous month's minutes. And I'm going to ask any of the committee members, does anybody have a resolution to make with respect to the minutes from last month or any amendments?
No. I would.
No?
I move.
Hearing none. Sorry, Clayton, you shook your head.
Oh, I was saying no. I motion that we approve the minutes as presented.
All right, I second that. Oh, that's fine too if Jesse does it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Has Herman clicked on yet? Just so I know if.
I do not see him yet. No.
Okay, thanks. Just so I can make a note. We're going to move now to an initial discussion of the district statement of needs, which is something in the budget consultation questions, which are things that we discuss yearly, and we begin the discussion this month. To kick off that discussion, we have the district manager, Susan Stetzer, who's present to speak about the process and about how the office has amended the needs for us and updated information so that we can work from that.
Okay. First of all, does everybody have last year's district needs with the edits?
I sent it to everybody.
Okay, so everybody, I'm going to assume everybody's read it.
Yeah.
Clint, is this what you have up?
This is the most recent one you sent me. I assume this is.
So that's good. Let me just start with the process, which I sent out a couple of weeks ago, a one-sheeter to everybody, but I'll just briefly mention a few points. So first of all, our budget process starts with our district needs statement, and we are working on the year starting in July 2021. The fiscal year that starts this coming July. The council and mayor are working on the budget right now, and it'll be finished in about 2 weeks. So we're working on a year from now, which under the current conditions is really, really difficult to figure out what our needs are. The SLA committee is a little bit different than most of them because the committee deals mostly with licensing with a state agency. Our district needs are for city funding and city agencies. So it's harder for the SLA committee to have impact on this section. So we focus on unmet needs. We don't always have answers to unmet needs. Again, another committee's funding will often, funding programs often helps, but that's not something we can do in this committee. We will be working on the statement through August. We will vote in October on both budget priorities and the statement. Usually we vote earlier, but because we have so little information about how the pandemic has made changes, we want to give ourselves as much time as possible to be able to put last minute changes due to data or anything else in this statement. This statement of our needs will then inform budget priorities that we will be discussing in September and October. Again, we depend on police enforcement, so that's one of the few areas that we would see budget having an impact, but that would be under public safety. But people should think about whether they want to have any input in that committee. So looking at what Clint put up, this is exactly the same as last year except for the first paragraph. And what we did is we generally look at noise complaints for fiscal year to fiscal year. Because of the shutdown in March, we couldn't do that. So we went back and looked at March 1st to March 1st, starting March 2017 through March 2020. And Jim looked all these up on the 311 website. So we see a trend that complaints are going down. We also see that complaints are still very high. And we also see that we're the highest in Manhattan. We may or may not be the highest in the whole city. There's 1 or 2 boards that we compete with in Brooklyn, but we didn't want to take the time, to be honest, to look at 59 boards. So the problem is that we really don't know what's going to be happening, how many stores. I'm hearing different figures, like from the administration, like they expect maybe 30% of nightlife to not reopen, but we don't know if that's true. We don't know if there's certain kinds of nightlife that will reopen and certain won't. I still would like to try and find out if there's any trends, because it seems to me that we've seen somewhat of a trend toward very high-end restaurants instead of 4 a.m. bars, but no one's looked at any figures for that. It would be very hard to do in our board. So that's kind of where we're at. We don't have any of the important changes to make because it's just too soon. And I think the other material in here is generally true. Sidewalk cafes, I don't expect to change at all. There may be somewhat fewer, but I don't expect that would be a huge amount. Even if we lose 30% of our nightlife, we'll still have a lot of businesses, but we'll also have an awful lot of vacant storefronts, which will be bad. Jen, am I forgetting anything that you can think of?
I think that largely covers it. The trend down with the number of SLA noise complaints is notable, but there's so many different reasons that could be causing that, and it's still the highest in Manhattan. So I don't know that downward trend. You should definitely keep it in there, comment on it, but I don't think it changes your priorities. It's still the same needs.
Okay, Alex, did you?
The only, oh, I was going to say the only thing that I can think of that we can, maybe we'll have more information in another month even, is, and again, we're talking about July of 2021, there are a number of temporary measures that the state and the city are implementing to assist eating and drinking businesses. And it may be that we have to consider what, you know, what kind of enforcement or funding for enforcement we ask for, if we're able to do that, to respond to that. But I don't know what that is yet. I do know, you know, there are some numbers. You don't have the numbers here, but there's some numbers with respect to just the retail sale of alcohol and people on the street. And it may be that we have a better sense of numbers as people are allowed to serve food and drink outside, and we see what the potential consequences of that are and how we might consider, you know, regulating that. Because I'm hearing talk about that, but I don't hear much talk about the discussion of the regulation of that. I mean, and I know that they're discussing regulating that, but I haven't actually heard what those regulations might consist of. And it may be that it's hard to anticipate what they'll consist of. You know, if you're allowing or trying to allow all the businesses that can to be able to have something outside.
So there aren't numbers that I'm aware of for that, since they are not 311 noise complaints. And they're not even attached to the bar addresses necessarily. So I think it's actually really difficult to try and assess numbers of that.
How are they being tabulated by the press? And when you're referencing it as complaints coming in regarding lack of social distancing or standing in front of nightlife places, how are they?
So there is
categorizing them.
So things change a lot. So in the beginning, I was telling people to complain about lack of social distancing. We quickly found out that that was not useful. So I think in the beginning, that's what the press was looking at. We quickly found out that wasn't useful. And that's because after our police brutality complaint on 9th Street and Avenue D, the police were told not to enforce social distancing, so it couldn't be done. So what I was then telling people to complain about is illegal drinking from open container on the sidewalk, which theoretically is still supposed to be enforced. I actually found out about a lot of the complaints from Nextdoor, a blog, and I started telling people to send them to their complaints to the community board. I also saw some in Bowery Boogie for below Houston. But I am now telling people to complain about drinking from an open container, because that's the only thing that the police are even possibly looking at. But again, as far as next July, I would say I'm 99.999% sure these temporary measures will not be in effect by then. If they are, our economy is dead and we might as well give up. So I would say we're not going to be dealing with these temporary measures in 13 months, but we're still going to be dealing with a situation where we're going to have a lot of nightlife. As far as city and state are concerned, I would say if they approve things quickly before, they're going to approve things even more quickly, because they're going to, there's a tremendous loss of revenue. And I think we're going to have to adjust, you know, to the way both city and state are going to be looking at licenses. But I agree with you. You know, we kind of have to look at what information is coming in the next 2 months. And it would be great if all the committee members could kind of think about this and what direction they think might be useful.
So
does anybody else? Go ahead, Clint.
Yeah, I have a couple questions or comments. So one, I actually just, when I was pulling the 311 complaints for the items today, I did pull just to see what was coming up. There was still 180, I think it was 180 noise complaints for the last month or two, just for the whole C. I didn't break it down, but for CB3, there was still 180 noise complaints, even with bars closed. So they're still coming in I know that's lower than what we would normally have, but
Are they commercial noise complaints?
yes, they were. I did my normal sort for bars and restaurants, NYPD noise complaints, and
So
they were.
if you would send that to me, I'd be really like to look
Sure.
at it.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I can pull down the Excel sheet and file it over. I didn't look into the detail of every one, but I just did a rough count of them to see what was going on.
Great. It would be great as long as you did that for us to look at it.
Yep. Now, my other comment is, so, for example, we have, I guess, right above the Sidewalk Cafe section where we have several recommendations to mitigate the negative impacts of nightlife proliferation. So if we're saying strict adherence to the SLA 500-foot rule by not allowing new liquor licenses, I know one thing we want to do based on what you said earlier is we do want to try to, because we're maybe expecting a loss of 30 to 50% of our existing businesses, do we want to, and I know this is a year out, but do we want to say something like, I don't know if we want to leave this statement, if we want to adjust this statement so that it's not so, I'm not sure how we want to handle that. Should we maybe put a disclaimer in there saying, given the immediate need or the immediate loss of businesses, we do feel that even though we're in a saturated area, we want to encourage, I don't know, that's language we can talk about, but is that something we think we should maybe consider?
One thing I would mention, it kind of makes what you're saying kind of makes a lot of sense I think for the committee to consider. But this need statement is not a policy statement.
True.
I think what you're talking about might be a really good policy agenda item for your committee.
So you think, I was just going to say, so Susan, what you're saying, you think it's probably okay to leave the district needs as it is?
No, I think parts of it are there. Certainly the noise issues are still there. But I think it's kind of too early. It's the kind of thing you're talking about.
Yeah.
I think it probably needs some kind of change, but I don't know what that is. And I was hoping maybe committee members might think about it over the next month.
Okay.
I'm going to try and research like trends, if anybody else has the ability to do that. And if we could get the information to compile it before the next meeting, it would be great. I just think it's too early to say.
I was thinking about it, but I also agree with you that we just have no idea.
Mm-hmm.
What I expect to see, and I was actually going to bring this up at exec, just of what to look at, and just your committee might be interested. We actually have more on our agenda than some of the other busy boards. Like we've gone from 3 to 7, between 3 and 7 a month. Some of the other boards are staying closer to 3. What I would expect to see as places figure out if they're going to be able to open or not, I would expect to see a lot of upgrades from beer, wine to full liquor, particularly with 50% capacity. They're going to need to figure out some way to make money.
Well, we've also seen a trend even in the last month that people asking for 4 a.m. licenses based on the fact that they need more hours because they feel like they have less capacity.
I didn't realize.
Or will have less capacity.
So that's all I have. It's kind of more, this is where we're at more than any recommendation.
Okay.
And for us, I don't know that there's so much that we could do to it this month other than try to think about what we might add to it. I think I could probably construct an initial paragraph, a first paragraph that encompasses what has been happening in the past year, right? If the case isn't going to be able to say where we are in July of 2021, but it can certainly include the highs and lows of this past year other than the numbers that Susan and Jim added. Is there anybody else?
I honestly think anything before March is irrelevant at this point.
Mm-hmm. Is there anybody else who wants to comment or have a question?
Nope.
Anybody?
No, seeing no one.
So for the committee members, if there's something that you think should be included, you can even construct a sentence or sentences that or topic that you think might go into the needs statement. as we work on it and send it to me in advance. And I can try to work it into this need statement as part of a draft that we then review. And I would just ask that you do that before the July meeting. Okay?
Okay.
All right. We're going to move on to number 3 now, which is an alteration application for 78 to 80 East 4th Street. I already see that the people are here for that application and signed in. And I'm going to, which Clint already said, I'm going to go through a summary of the information I have and then give the applicant an opportunity to speak. And then we're going to move to any other speakers, give the applicants an opportunity to respond, and then we'll go on to the making of a resolution. So this
Alex,
is an alteration.
Alex, just so you know, just want to add, Herman has now joined us, so we are all of our committee members
Oh,
are here.
thank you. That's good to know also. So this is an alteration application. The letter submitted to the community board said to expand lower level for regular film screenings. A review of the application materials submitted by the applicant shows for me, and you can correct me during your presentation if I make any errors in the summary of my information, that it's an alteration to extend the license to the seller. It's unclear what the certificate of occupancy will be because the applicant put 150, but that was the existing certificate of occupancy when we were just hearing this business for the 2 ground floor storefronts. Changing the type of food in the restaurant from American to French, changing the sound level of films and DJs, which would be in the lower level from background to background and entertainment level, and having recorded background music on the ground floor. There was a proposal for security in the initial application for this applicant, and it's here. I don't think that we included it in a resolution last time we heard this. And then an amendment to close the kitchen at 1 in the morning so that the upstairs, the ground floor area could be used as a waiting area for the downstairs. And then it's unclear whether or not this downstairs area, I couldn't tell from the diagram, would have its own exit and entry. I presume it has an exit because it has to legally, but I don't know whether or not there'll be a separate entrance. We heard this application, the initial application for an OP license in July of 2019, and in August of 2019, we approved it with stipulations to operate a full-service American restaurant with a kitchen open and serving food all hours, having hours of 2 p.m. to 4 a.m. Monday through Friday, 12 p.m. to 4 a.m. Saturday and Sunday. And I'm sorry, the alteration application also includes an adjustment of hours to open earlier. Operating a sidewalk cafe for sit-down dining with an awning extended over the cafe during its operating hours, hours of 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. Monday through Friday, 12 p.m. to 10 p.m. Saturday and Sundays, and not using the cafe as a waiting, as an area for waiting or smoking patrons while the cafe is not in use. Installing soundproofing consistent with the recommendation of a sound engineer and in cooperation with affected building residents. And ensuring that sound from the business is inaudible to the residential neighboring apartments, closing the facade at 10 p.m., playing background music consisting of recorded music generally, DJs 2 times per week, not having live music, promoted events, scheduled performances or covers, but allowing scheduled performances insofar as they consist of daily film showings as part of the method of operation, with sound playing slightly higher than background level, but still inaudible in neighboring apartments. And I'm sorry, the alteration also leaves open the possibility of events associated with the film screenings that we'll have to discuss more. Not applying for an alteration without first coming before the community board, having happy hours to 8 p.m., not hosting pub crawls or party buses, not having unlimited drink specials with food, not having wait lines, and having a staff person responsible for noise and crowds outside. This application had a C of O 150 with 6 tables and 56 seats on the ground floor, 13 tables and 80 seats in the cellar, with 46 seats at tables, 10 seats at the bar on the ground floor, and 70 seats at tables, 10 seats at the bar on the ground floor, a 24-foot bar with 10 stools on the ground floor, a 25-foot bar with 10 stools in the cellar, as well as a 7-foot service bar. Hours now would be 12 p.m. to 4 a.m. Mondays through Friday, 11 a.m. to 4 a.m. Saturdays and Sundays. Kitchen open all hours, serving French food, but then a statement that the kitchen would close at 1 in the morning to accommodate waiting patrons on the ground floor for the film screenings. There's no answer about the facade. 3 TVs, which includes the cinema screen in the cellar, DJs and recorded music at background and entertainment levels with DJs 2 times per week, and entertainment level music and DJs in the cellar with no subwoofer on the ground floor. Events performed in the cellar, or events and performances in the cellar. 1 security guard, 9 p.m. to closing. The installation of soundproofing, which has been ongoing for at least the first floor. No pub crawls or party buses, happy hours 8 p.m., no wait lines, staff outside. The applicant counts 29 OPs within 500 feet. I also count 2 pending ones when I look at the lamp map. And the applicant notes the now experience, the family experience with Village Cinema at 22 East 12th Street. And as I said, there was a letter submitted with the questionnaire and the materials the applicant submitted describing the alteration as an extension of the license to the cellar and an installation of a cinema-type sound system in the cellar, as well as the other alterations that I mentioned with respect to the hours of operation, the use of the first floor for dining with background music, the basement for dining and film screenings with DJs and entertainment level music and sound, waiting area in the cellar, and closing the kitchen at 1 a.m. to use the ground floor as another waiting area. The license for this application hasn't been issued yet, but a conditional approval letter was sent by the SLA to the applicant on April 28th. In their initial discussions, there were ongoing discussions about soundproofing because of residents' concerns about noise that would be coming from this business. And in fact, the business had never been used for this type of activity, but had been bars serving food or restaurants serving food with what was supposed to be recorded background music. Okay. Go ahead, this is your opportunity, the applicant and the attorney for the applicant, to make any statement you want or presentation you want with respect to the application.
How are you? The attorney is not participating. I'm the principal, and Lunas will be working with me in making the space, helping me take a high, like a direction of like a higher end restaurant, instead of like just offering like American food like burgers and hot dogs. Like we want to make it more of like fresh, like farm to table food, like inspired by Mediterranean cuisine and inspired by like almost like a French bistro. Just to clarify one thing, we're not proposing for the kitchen to close at 1 a.m., but we are proposing for the to stop serving patrons on the ground floor at 1 a.m. And the idea behind that was to utilize that space as a waiting area, so as to minimize like any lines outside. And that's like, you know, we just we've been in touch with our neighbors, and like we're trying to see what the problems were have been in the past, and just propose that as a way to help the situation with any, because I know like my neighbor, her apartment's like right above like the ground floor, so I understand like the potential problems with that. So the kitchen would still be operating during all and serving food all hours of operation. We just will not be serving any patrons on the ground floor past 1 a.m. Then another point, Alexandra mentioned about the certificate of occupancy. The certificate of occupancy lists the seller as restaurant, cabaret, and storage. for its use. Anyway, so basically,
No, when I said certificate of occupancy, and I'm sorry to interrupt, I mean numbers,
oh, numbers.
not use.
Plus
Yeah,
one-
I was talking about numbers. That's why I said
Right, right.
150 on the ground floor. What do you anticipate in the basement?
well, it's based on our seating. So between the two of them together, our seating is less than 150. It was about like 60 seats on the ground floor and 80 seats in the cellar. And you know what the importance of the cellar for us is that, you know, we're facing like very difficult times. I mean, like you went through it just now in your when you're going through your agenda and everything. And you know, this is my first business. I've invested in like everything I have in this business, and at this point I'm just like trying to do like my best to survive during this time and for like the difficult months to come. And I mean, I don't know, I can't put a number on how long like things will be difficult for the hospitality industry, but you know, I'm just trying to like survive this time. And like I understand like I'm not gonna make any money in the foreseeable future, but at least I want my first business to be a success in the sense that it's not gonna like, it's gonna survive. So that being said, I started a conversation with the landlord about giving me a break with the rent. He told me that he couldn't do it due to you know, having to pay property taxes and his obligations, but he offered to give me this additional space in the cellar, which you know, we were able to create direct access from the restaurant upstairs to the cellar. This way, you know, we're able to like at least like cover our expenses, you know, and not, I mean, like, you know, not run dry of.
The whole idea was actually having this 50% capacity would be allow us to actually move 50%, to add another additional 50% downstairs, which allow us to create a business nearly at full occupancy if we only had the business upstairs.
Could you speak up, please?
What was that?
Hard to hear you. I said, could he speak up?
Oh, yeah.
Sure. Sorry. The whole to essentially have another extra 50% occupancy capacity downstairs, so that would allow us to run a business at full occupancy if we only had the restaurant upstairs. Another aspect, it was to actually essentially move the noise from the cinema that was initially planned to downstairs and create and
Well, before we get there, that is like you know, an added benefit to that. But the direction we wanted to take with the place to begin with was to promote film, and we saw that the cellar has a much better layout for film. And I mean, like the fact is like we can like have a lot of people on the ground floor now, so it wouldn't do like films justice just to have like, you know, like a limited number of people attending. At the same time, having the cellar gives us the flexibility to operate the ground floor as a restaurant and not having to compromise the operation when we showcase films. And then the downstairs will be like a mixed use for film and dining. So for a patron that comes like for dinner, we would see them upstairs. For somebody who comes for like a film, we would seat them like downstairs, like film and dinner. And I'm sorry, Lunas.
go ahead.
Then
I need you to wrap it up because we have other applicants, and I think we all have questions, and I think I'm going to have some questions just to sort of refine the direction that we're going in.
Okay, then the other benefit is that the cellar is actually 24 steps down from street level. So we utilize that to better improve any potential for noise problems. And we moved the cinema downstairs, any TVs downstairs. And we also have the ground floor, and it's all below commercial space. And you know, we've been working on soundproofing together with the sound engineer, the ground floor. So, okay, we feel like it's overall this was a gift to us, and you know, we're just doing our best to make it work for everybody.
Okay, thank you. So these are the questions I have. Do you have an existing certificate of occupancy for the cellar space?
Yes.
And what is it? Not the use, the occupancy. What is your number?
150.
No, is that your number overall for both storefronts and both cellar areas?
No, so the ground floor would be
You said it was 150.
It says pounds per square foot, 120 and 40. We're limiting capacity to under 74. In terms of like place of assembly certificate.
I understand, but in order to construct stipulations that fit what the method of operation is, I just need answers to my questions. I get that you're saying you want to limit what your capacity is going to be, but as I understood it, the legal capacity for the two storefronts on the ground floor together is 150. Is that right? Or is it different? Because 150 is what you told us in August.
That's not what the COO says. The COO,
what does it say? Because you told us 150 in August.
No, I just provided you the COO. The COO only clarifies for the seller. It says seller total 150. For first.
No, but you have a certificate of occupancy for the ground floor, don't you?
It is on the same certificate of occupancy.
So it's 150 for everything, for two ground floors and two cellars, in essence, two ground floors and two cellars.
Well,
I just need us to get past these questions, which I think will enable, if we're going to approve this alteration, enable us to look at what the actual use is. Where did the number 350 come from?
It says cellar 150, first story, it says 120 and 40.
So the cellar, in fact, it has a C of O 150, and you're saying the first story has a C of O, combined C of O 160?
120 and 40 for stores and tenement.
Combined 160, yes.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Have you discussed with your sound engineer soundproofing the cellar?
Yes, and there is existing soundproofing in place. However, we're also changing the exit doors to have like solid acoustical doors, and then we upon like testing, we'll see if any additional soundproofing is required on top of what is already there. Also, another question you asked before, and I forgot to answer, I'm sorry, is that the cellar does have its own entrance. We are creating also entrance directly from the restaurant to the cellar. And then the cellar also has 3 exits, 2 exits plus the entrance.
So there's going to be an additional separate entrance for this business. Is that correct?
No, because it will be part of the restaurant. We will also be serving like dining patrons in the cellar.
No, I understand that, but are you going to have a separate entrance that goes directly into the cellar from the outside?
If there's a yes, in case of like if there's like a film event, you know, just to watch a movie, then we would use the separate entrance.
So that's a yes.
Yes.
Okay, because that's the question I had. Is there a separate entrance? And where is that? To the west of the business?
Yes.
To the west side of the business?
Yes. Right before the storefront. It's
so in this proposed security guard, where are you going to put him? Are you going to put him at your east side entrance, or are you going to put him at your west side entrance?
So the
or is he just going to walk back and forth?
The security guard can stand in the middle of both entrances, and like both are within reach without having to move. They're extremely close to one another.
Okay, thank you. All right, Clinton, are there people signed up to speak? And I'm sorry, I was just trying to clarify the application to make maybe the conversation from anybody else a little more effective.
Signed up.
Yeah, no one specifically signed up. Susan has her hand up, and I know there was a resident above that said she was just listening unless she had any questions. So we can give her a moment in a second. But Susan does have her hand up, so go ahead, Susan.
Yeah, I wanted to make a comment that I only made a few times in the last 16 years. And I have been in almost constant contact with the residents and the applicant. And I've rarely seen anyone so responsive and so accommodating. Even when we did the sound testing and I said, you know, and I was there specifically, and I said there cannot be a sound audible, you know, they went along with this. So I just want to say that, you know, that they've been as good as they can be in working with the residents and with the office to an extent I rarely see. And the other thing, I just want to say on the certificate of occupancy, I don't know what's going to be happening. You know, whether we should expect to see permanent changes or not permanent changes, I have no idea.
Thank you, Susan. I mean, look, what?
Yeah, oh, no, you're going to have an opportunity to speak. I want anybody else who speaks all at once, so then you get an opportunity to respond. Clint,
Yeah.
there's a person who signed up with questions.
Yeah, well, no, she said, I think she said she was just here to listen unless she had questions. I don't.
No, I think she said I do have a couple.
Oh, she does. Okay, I see it at the bottom now in the chat. She does. So,
So
yeah.
you want me to add?
Regine,
Yeah.
go ahead and.
Sure,
yes.
go ahead.
Here, my concern, wait a second. Just two concerns. One is that the entertainment level sound from the basement, it still applies that we're not supposed to hear any sound, right? From either the basement or the ground floor, correct?
Yes.
Well, we haven't made that stipulation, but yes, we could.
Yeah, because I think I was living here when there was something in the basement, and I don't have a recollection of it being horrible, but I also don't remember exactly whether we heard anything at all. But it was many, many, many years ago. So just as long as the stipulation is that we don't have to hear anything from there. And also after 1 p.m. on the ground floor, when the restaurant closes, does it then become a bar, or it's just a waiting area? Because just wondering.
Go ahead. I don't think that there's anybody else who signed up to speak, so you can respond to Susan and Regina.
I didn't have any questions.
Just to clarify about
No, I bet he wanted to respond to what you said before, and I told him to wait until after Regina had questions.
So, Regine, it's with the 1 a.m., the idea is to not serve any patrons. So we have the space where patrons would normally be sitting. We'll use that space as a waiting area so that we minimize, you know, any lines outside late at night. So the kitchen is still going to be operating, but any place where normally you would have like dining patrons or people like drinking, we're going to use it as a waiting area for people who are waiting to go downstairs.
Mm-hmm.
And
So will you, I think the clarification is, since you seem to be saying you're not going to be serving them food, are you still going to be serving them alcohol from the bar?
You're not going to be serving patrons, period.
So not either food or drink?
Yeah.
And you're just going to use that as a holding area?
Yes.
Okay. Can you speak perhaps to the anticipated, because we hadn't discussed this with the original application. The original application was sort of background films that were background to eating and drinking. This contemplates dining, a separate space for films with also dining, but then events associated with the films now. So can you speak to what those events would be and the frequency of events?
Right. So basically, what we do at Cinema Village is that we work with a lot of independent and up-and-coming filmmakers, and we host like movie premieres for them, and we do Q&As, panels, and then so we wanna bring that to this space here, and then at the same time, we wanna incorporate like some dining for them and having a drink and creating like a comfortable environment so this like filmmakers and artists in general can get together with audiences, and so we kind of like create a home for them. So when we say events, we mean any film related events like premieres, Q&As, discussions, meet and greets, and now, with the background entertainment level sound, in the previous stipulations, we agreed higher than ambient level for movies, but still inaudible in the apartments. And yes, inaudible in the apartments is fair, but I was thinking, since we're moving the film aspect of the venue to the cellar, and we have like this benefit of more like soundproofing, if it would be possible to add like an actual like cinema system, sound system, so it could play films, the way they were intended. So I mean, like, we're gonna have like a cinema projector and a cinema screen, and if we can agree that it's going to be notable in the apartments, I was wondering if we can add like a proper system for the films.
So your
I think
question
provided the area is adequately soundproofed so that it's not heard outside or in the apartments, which is what was consistent with any theater really, then, the idea to have the film in the cellar as opposed to the ground floor is a better idea.
Right.
I'm concerned about anybody saying that the existing soundproofing is inadequate, because I don't know. I've been here since 1992, and I don't know of a legal business being operated in the cellar of this location and on this community board since 1998. So for any of the businesses since I've been in this community. I don't know whether or not this cellar was part of a stealth club at some point, because I know the entrance on the west side was an entrance to a stealth club in the 90s. But as far as I know, none of the businesses that I knew about utilized the cellar. And I even would patronize the businesses through the 90s and the 2000s.
Many years ago. I
Until
think
Stillwater.
Yeah.
We're happy to install.
So I'm concerned about the quality of the soundproofing from the 90s. And it didn't look to me like there was adequate soundproofing in the photographs that you showed us.
Yeah, if it's not sufficient, if it doesn't do what we want it to do, we'll put in the money to install the soundproofing.
Okay.
I mean, if it doesn't work, then there's no other way about it. We just do what needs to be done.
All right. Committee members, does anybody have any questions or comments?
So I had a couple. You kind of answered one of them. My question was going to be, what was this change in plans? You've answered that this is one thing your landlord has been working with you, so it's going to give you a better chance at making a comeback. So I understand that. So what I didn't see in your application was an actual floor plan. I saw some pictures of the existing basement, but how were you planning on arranging or laying out? Is it going to be, is it just going to be a theater? Are there going to be tables and a bar? Like, it looks like there was an existing bar, but what's your proposed plan for the basement level?
Do you mind if we take the questions one at a time? Just so
There is a diagram.
Okay,
Sure.
So,
What?
we are going to use the cellar as both dining and film. So usually, it would be as like more tables for the restaurant, and then at the same time we're gonna have like we're gonna play.
Oh, you know what? I missed this. I saw your first floor, and then I saw the next diagram, but you're right. There is a cellar there, so I completely see it now. You can you can like scratch that question.
Yeah. Did you have another question?
No, I think those, and that was going to be the follow-up, which you've also kind of discussed, was the idea of having, if you're going to have actual movie screenings down there, if that's an older space that really hasn't been used or was used for something very low impact,
Right.
the one thing to be careful in these old tenement buildings,
Mhm.
the walls can act like amplifiers, and that sound will show up in apartments 3 floors up that you're not hearing on the ground floor, but it goes through some little channel. So just as long as you're going to stick with that you're going to assure the residents that it's going to be sound and vibration is not going to interfere in their apartments, I'm okay with it. I just that's something to be aware of, that you may have soundproofing, but there might be some little space that, and we've seen this in many other buildings around these villages. So
All you need is a gap going
Yeah.
up or a pipe, and then it creates problems.
Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to discuss with you is, I know we agreed to have like a fixed front, but I was considering, like, with the coronavirus now, if you think it would be more like hygienic, or like it would help to have like some open windows during, you can even limit the hours just to have like more fresh air into the restaurant.
I don't know that that's gonna, I'm not opposed to us considering it, but I don't know that that's gonna have an impact on whether or not you have a person inside, you know, who's transmitting something,
Right, I know.
and the windows are open versus closed. I don't know that that's gonna affect that.
I know it's a little bit with the psychological aspect of it. If I see like a place that's like completely closed, like no fresh air coming from the street, even if there's like fresh air coming from like the HVAC system, you know, it just goes back to like just like basic like human nature. And you know, it is a business at the end of the day, and we do want to encourage like people to come in. It's not the end of the world. It's just something I figured, like, I ask. You know.
And do any other committee members have any questions or comments, and then we can move to the making of a resolution? Ellen, Jesse, or Herman?
It's Ellen. I'm satisfied with what's been presented. But in terms of the comment on COVID-19 and air droplets circulating, I think if you have a little bit of air, it actually helps the air droplets circulate, right? Because it's not a total open air setting. You just have a little bit, and it actually might help facilitate those droplets from moving around, actually.
Well, yeah, I'm fine with the applications presented, but I do have a question. So are you proposing you want to have open windows? Are you just questioning that, or are you actually proposing that?
We're actually proposing open windows if possible, whether it's
Okay.
or not.
That's an additional alteration.
Yes, and
So
And what? And consisting of what?
no, it's not
So
important.
consisting of half-high open windows, consisting of accordion doors that fold, consisting of garage doors, consisting of French doors, and on both storefronts or just one storefront?
yeah, slide would be an option, madam. But
So accordion doors and on both storefronts or one storefront?
No, according doors or just
sliding doors.
from floor to ceiling?
No. From even limiting space, madam, from about 30-inch on top of the window, that would be helpful, I think, and still keeping the double glazed windows.
So windows, so you would just have not, as opposed to, you know, sliding or accordion doors, you would have a normal height window or a 30-inch height window that would slide open. So you would just have opening windows.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So the one thing that we normally would stipulate with that is, you know, they would have to be closed by 10 p.m. And then the second thing is, or anytime there's any kind of amplified sound or music inside.
That's very fair. But Regina has a comment, by the way.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that what Clint said about the vibration is very important, because you may not hear anything, but you put your head on the pillow and all of a sudden you hear everything.
Okay,
It just
thank you.
I lived above a problematic for 6 years, so I understand.
I just need to rein in everything because I need to just keep this going in one direction. So if you're just going to respond to everybody who's talking, I'm not going to be able to do that. Jesse or Herman, do you have any comments or questions?
No, I think with the audio, was addressed, that inaudible. I think
No.
what Regina said about vibrations, just know, I think that's fine opening. I don't think there's any issue having a facade that opens, close it when there's any music or any sounds, close it at 10 p.m. otherwise, I would think, and just keep it inaudible. But other than that, I'm fine.
Okay. All right, then let's move to the making of a resolution. Is there a consensus to approve this alteration with stipulations addressing the additional use?
Yes.
Just let me know, and then I can go to the making of a resolution. Yes?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so why don't we start the
Yes.
resolution? It'll be a whereas clause that identifies what the alteration was originally applied for, what the details of that alteration were, all the additional elements of it that I outlined, then also that the applicant has also now asked to have an open facade with open windows. The previous motion approving this license would be the next whereas clause, what the SLA action was in that there's a conditional approval letter for this applicant. That when we approve this, I think we should include that when we approve this, we consider the public interest of adding sort of this art component of the film for screenings on what is historically an arts block for New York City. And we did this recognizing that while the applicant didn't himself have license experience, that he was associated with businesses with licenses and also businesses, theater businesses, which spoke to his experience operating this type of business. We should include a whereas clause that there were resident concerns about noise from this business, and the applicant had worked with the community board and residents and a sound engineer to address sound installation, to address installing soundproofing on the ground floor, and to ensure that sound from the ground floor space is inaudible to residential tenants in the building, and that I guess given the public benefit of expanding the art component of this business and giving it a space in the ground floor where it could conceivably be better insulated, and understanding that the applicant will install additional soundproofing and ensure that the basement space is also inaudible to residents, and addressing bass and vibrations so that vibrations are not felt by residential tenants above the business. We would approve this alteration with the following stipulations. So I'll go through the ones that are relatively easy to address. So it would be, now it would be operating as a full service French restaurant on both floors with film screening in the cellar level, with a kitchen open and serving food during all hours of operation. I think we have to separately address the idea of using the ground floor as a waiting area. With the amended hours of operation, which are 12 p.m. to 4 a.m. Mondays through Friday, 11 a.m. to 4 a.m. Saturdays and Sundays. Does this include amended hours of operation for the Sidewalk Cafe?
Is that a question?
Because you didn't address that at all. So it is, Sidewalk Cafe would still be closing at 10. But were you proposing opening the Sidewalk Cafe earlier?
Right, opening the Sidewalk Cafe earlier and closing.
When?
The same hours,
Opening when?
12 p.m. on Monday through Friday, and 11 a.m. Saturday and Sunday.
Okay. So then it would be 12 p.m. to 10 p.m. For the Sidewalk Cafe Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Saturday and Sunday, with the same stipulations with respect to the Sidewalk Cafe, that there would be an awning extended over it, that it wouldn't be used to house waiting and smoking patrons. I think we failed to include the last time, but you said that you would ensure that it happened, that smoking patrons would also be directed to the corner of 4th Street and 2nd Avenue, and we should include that as a stipulation as well. Then with respect to sound, I guess that the facade would close at 10 p.m. or when there's any amplified sound. That there would be no pub crawls or party buses, no unlimited drink specials with food. The happy hours are the same, happy hours to 8 p.m., no wait lines and staff outside. So then we would go to, and we can decide whether or not we agree on all of these. So then with respect to soundproofing, it would be soundproofing consistent with the sound engineer on both the ground floor and cellar, and ensuring that sound is inaudible and vibrations are not inaudible to, and vibrations and bass are not felt by residential tenants in the building. Does anybody want to amend that or change that or have other suggested language with respect to soundproofing? Okay.
Alex, I just have a clarification.
Go ahead, Ellen.
So the part for inaudible sound to residents in the building, is that for number 6 after installing soundproofing, or do you want
This
me
is, and with respect to this is, yes, this would be install soundproofing consistent with the recommendations of the sound engineer on both floors, and soundproofing would be inaudible. And sound on both floors would be inaudible, and I have to go to the music, so I forgot that part. Sound would be inaudible to residents from both floors, would be, and vibrations would not be felt by residents of the neighboring apartments, the residential apartments in the building.
Okay, and then for the sidewalk cafe hours, is that something that you added for number 3?
What?
For the sidewalk cafe hours, am I adding under number 4, actually, my sidewalk cafe hours?
Yes, you would try. I probably need to type out this stipulation myself or make it a Word document and add to it because some of these sections are long. So it would be 12 p.m. to 10 p.m. Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Saturday and Sunday. So with respect to security, does anybody want to be heard on that? The proposed security is 1 security guard, 9 p.m. to closing all days. So I would then add that. So there would be 1 security guard from 9 p.m. to closing all days. With respect to the music, it would be recorded background music on the ground floor, or music consisting only of recorded background music on the ground floor. And then in the lower level, it would be recorded music and DJs no more than 2 times per week at both background and entertainment level, with music and sound being both background and entertainment level.
Alex, can you repeat the, so for number 5, I will employ a security personnel, and from what time to what time?
9 p.m. to closing all days. Are you doing your own in-house promotions for the events and the Q&As and the movie screenings?
What was the question of, are we going to have promotions?
Are you doing your own in-house promotions? Because you checked off no promoted events.
We're going to do it, and then the filmmakers, or if they have a distribution company as well.
So there will be promoted events, but only with respect to the film-related events for the films that you're showing.
Yes.
Is that correct? And also ticketed sales associated with the events and the films themselves. Is that right?
We're not planning to. It was explained to me that the COO allows it, but we're not planning to. It's just I
So
would
you're
like
just showing the
possibility.
films in connection with the dining?
Yeah. So, yeah, that's the idea.
So you're not having ticketed sales or covers, but you're having promoted events in that there'll be film-related events in the basement
Yeah,
associated with the film screenings.
we're not looking to make revenue from film, but we want to encourage film and attract all lovers of film, like the creators and the audience.
Mhm. I just want to make sure I understand the scope of the event,
Yeah, we're not.
because it's hard to construct stipulations about them if I don't quite understand the
Right,
scope
we're
of
not going
them.
to be selling tickets.
I'm sorry, say that again?
We're not going to be selling tickets or have an
Okay. So, go ahead.
and we're not going to have an entrance fee.
I'm sorry, what did that, you're not going to have an entrance fee? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so then there'll be scheduled performances in that the scheduled performances will consist of the film screenings, the daily film screenings, and any events associated, any film-related events associated with the film screenings, all of which will be held in the basement. This is why I probably have to write this section out too. But there won't be live music or events with cover fees or ticketed sales.
Correct. No.
Okay. Does everybody agree to that? Do you want to amend anything or change anything? Yeah, all great. Okay. And then the only last thing, which I think will have to again be its own item, which is that you'll cease food and alcohol service in the ground floor in order to after 1 a.m. in order to utilize it as an interior waiting area. And we'll also have a separate interior waiting area in the cellar. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, I think that's it. Is there anything to add, or did I miss anything?
I just want to confirm the stipulation number 8. So I will.
Number 8.
So I will not have live music, promoted events, any event at which a cover fee is charged. Does
So
that
I will not have live music or any event with a cover fee. Scheduled performances will consist of film screenings and a film-related event.
right? So am I checking off promoted events as well?
No, so it would be scheduled performances, and there would be scheduled performances and promoted events, but they would consist of the film screenings and the film-related events associated with those screenings, right?
Yes.
All of which would be in the basement. Okay.
And then so it's still no more than 2 DJs per week. That's correct?
Yes. And in the basement.
Okay.
All right. Is there a second? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Is that everybody?
Aye.
Is that all 5 of us?
Yes.
Okay. Opposed, abstained. I know it's all 5 of us. All right. Thank you. Who should the stipulation has to be emailed to you? So who should it go to?
You can send it to my Gmail. Should I send it in the chat or just?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Please drop it in the chat, and then we'll.
That would be
Take it from
fine.
Okay.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you very much.
Thank you, guys.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
So we're moving on to number 5.
Okay,
Number
before we
5 is
start,
an
Alex, just let me say one
Sure,
thing
go
before we
ahead.
start. I know there's a few people that have joined since the beginning of the meeting. If you could go ahead and just sign in the chat box with your name and your affiliation, and if you are here to speak for or against or just a comment on any of the applicants, drop that in the chat box. That's what we're using for our sign-in sheet for tonight's meeting. And then if there is a question during a specific applicant, there's a raise your hand function. Please use that and we can call on you at that point.
Thanks. Moving on to number 5. Number 5 is an upgrade application for one of the market line businesses. this is Essex Pearl. Is the applicant for Essex Pearl here?
Yes.
Okay. Is that Stephen? Who is it?
Stephen,
Or
yes.
okay, just so I know, because I couldn't tell where the voice was coming from. Thank you. So this is a restaurant with a full menu, no outdoor space in the market. I'm sorry?
I'm sorry. I'm also here. My name is Gene Sue.
Oh, thank you.
Sorry about that. I was trying to hit
It's
the
okay.
mute.
It's okay, and I actually have my phone for my audio on top of your name, so I didn't see it. Sorry.
Oh.
Okay, this is an application for an upgrade of one of the vendors in the market line, which is a below ground market line or commissary at 115 Delancey Street. We approved the wine beer license in July of 2018 with stipulations to operate a full service seafood restaurant with retail seafood market in the market hall or commissary with its own seating and a kitchen open and serving food all hours, having hours of 10 a.m. to 2 a.m. all days, not using outdoor space, playing recorded background music, not applying for an alteration without first coming before the community board, not seeking an upgrade, not having happy hours, not hosting pub crawls or party buses, not having unlimited drink specials, and not having wait lines. There's no zoning listed here, no C of O listed here, 12 tables and 49 seats, although in the diagram submitted and more consistent with the original application, I see 3 tables and 16 seats and a counter with 4 stools, 35-foot bar with 21 stools, closing, it says closing at 2 a.m. all days. The opening hours are the opening hours of the market hall, the 10 a.m. A kitchen open all hours serving seafood. There's no answer about the facade, no TVs, recorded background music, no promoted events, scheduled performances or covers. Use of market line security, no security of its own, no pub crawls or party buses, no happy hours, no wait lines. The applicant counted 1 OP within 500 feet. I counted 3 and 1 pending. The 1 pending is not on the lamp map, but we've already heard it. It's within the market hall. I don't know if the business opened on November 22nd of 2019 or if the license was issued, because when I try to search 115 Delancey, I only get 1 license for any of the smaller vendors, and then the 1 liquor license that was approved also in 2018. This is your opportunity now to make a statement with respect to your application or make a presentation if you want.
Thank you. So wanted to upgrade the license that we currently have. The business has been open for 7 months with no violation. We just feel like, as far as, due to the post-COVID environment, this business, like any business, is trying to maximize as much income as possible. And so we feel like upgrading the license to a full OP would help us do that. It's a restaurant, not a bar. We're not changing any other part of the business other than the upgrade. Hours not changing, nothing else is changing. And I would like to, one thing that I was part of the meeting since the beginning, and one of the committee members who said something I thought was very poignant when she said that anything before March doesn't apply. And so I think we are in different times here. And I'd like to, advocate on behalf of the client to maximize his income as much as possible so we can avoid another vacant space, in Manhattan. So just want to maximize our income.
Okay. Is the business still going to have the retail seafood component?
Stephen, do you want to answer that? Stephen, are you there? I believe so. My client's supposed to be, he should be on the line, but my understanding is nothing else about this business is changing. So
Okay.
If it was already there before, it will be there after.
Okay. Okay. I just wanted to clarify. He's there. I don't know. I see that his mute is on. I don't know why he didn't hear you.
Let me see if I can ask him to unmute. Hold on one second, please. But yes, that's my understanding. Hold on. I'm texting him now. Please unmute. I just texted him, so I'm hoping that he will.
Oh, hello?
Oh, Stephen?
Yes, sorry.
Okay.
I had to click the *6. I had to remember from the beginning. No, the retail fish market component is still on. That's when we start at 10 a.m. and open up the shop for the community to buy seafood.
And Stephen, can you tell us what your last name is?
Last name is Wong, W-O-N-G.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to ask, is there anybody who signed up to speak, Clint?
Say again? I'm so sorry.
I'm asking my vice chair if anybody signed up to
No,
speak.
I'm double checking the chat and I don't see anyone here. Nope. There is no one in the chat to speak for Essex Pearl, so.
Does anybody have questions or comments from the committee?
I don't think so. I mean, I think, this is in a, it's in the market line section. It's fairly well contained. It's, I think it poses little risk of being an issue for the neighborhood. So I'm fine with it.
I think the other thing to consider here is that, like the market line presented to us a plan which had the 2 anchor restaurants or eating places with full licenses and all the vendors inside. Of all the vendors that we've heard so far that were beer, wine licenses or beer licenses, those vendors have much smaller spaces and make use of the communal area, or have limited seating or no seating and also make use of the communal area, while this location represented itself as a restaurant with that long bar seating to enable it to have a full menu that it could serve to patrons.
Yep, I agree.
So I think that's something to take into consideration, even though the length of time for which it's operating is very short for us.
Right.
In addition to where it's located.
Right. No, I totally understand that. It's just, even going forward for all restaurants, and as you know.
You understand, so we're saying something positive.
Yeah.
So, I mean, unless you want to agree with us, we can move to the making of a resolution.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I just want to get through the resolution if that's what's going to happen, because it seems like that's where we are.
Yep.
Can we go to the making of a resolution then?
Yes.
Okay. So then I propose that we do the following resolution, which would be a whereas clause that explains that this is an application for a change in class, what the elements of the application are in a second whereas clause, that it was previously approved with the stipulations I said in July of 2018. Is November 22nd, Mr. Su, 2019, is that when the license was issued?
I believe so, Stephen. I left my file in my office. Stephen, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I thought that was correct.
So then, whereas with when the license was the wine beer license was issued, and then a whereas that says, given that this is a full service restaurant in a below ground market hall or commissary that's been open approximately 7 months, we would approve it with stipulations. And then I would propose that the stipulations be the same as the existing stipulations. Do you need me to go through them? Oh,
that'd be fine. But
since I already went through them, but for the purpose of the new resolution, I'm just asking my committee members, do you need me to go through the stipulations again?
I do not know.
No.
Okay. All right. Is there a second for the resolution then?
Second.
Second. Helen, all right.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. That's everybody. No opposed, no abstain. Okay, thank you. Where should this has to be emailed to you? Where should it be emailed to?
I can put my email address in the chat box if you'd like.
Yeah,
That's
that would be very
fine.
helpful.
Much
Okay.
appreciated. Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you very much.
All right, we're moving on now to item number 6.
Thank you.
Item number 6 is an application for a tavern in a previously unlicensed location. No zoning is listed. It's located at 279 East Houston. Is the applicant here for that? I think I saw that somebody
Yes.
signed in for
Yes,
this
they
address,
signed
right?
in. Yes, they signed in here. They're for.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
This has a C of 75. It says with 1 table and 12 seats. Although in the diagram, it looks like the table is actually a sofa. A 17-foot bar with 8 stools. Proposed hours of 12 p.m. to 12 a.m. Sunday through Thursday, 12 p.m. to 2 a.m. Fridays and Saturdays. Prep area open for an unspecified period of time, serving what look like appetizers. There's no answer about the facade, 1 TV, recorded background music. There's no promoted events, scheduled performances or events with cover fees. It lists security, but didn't specify what it would consist of or for what hours. It says, the application says it will install soundproofing. And then none of the stipulations were checked off at the end of the questionnaire, so I can't speak to, but have to ask about happy hours, whether or not it's agreeing to no pub crawls, whether or not what it's going to do about wait lines, whether or not it's agreeing to have staff outside. It counts 8 full on-premises liquor licenses within 500 feet. I also count 2 pending using the lamp map. And the applicant notes no license experience, but experience operating 1 or more convenience stores, including one at this address. I don't know whether or not it was actually the storefront as opposed to just the 279 East Houston Street address, with a retail sales license that was issued April 20th of 2018. All right, this is your opportunity to make a statement, if you want to make a statement or a presentation with respect to your application.
Yeah, my name is Neil Trivedi. I'm the representative representing Yogi, Yogi Tea Bar. It's my client actually owns the smoke shop that's next door to it as well. He has other retail establishments such as convenience stores and
Such
smoke
as
shops.
what stores? I'm sorry, I just didn't hear you.
What was that?
I heard smoke shop next door, but other establishments, and then I couldn't hear what that was.
Yeah, other establishments similar to convenience stores and smoke shops. He has experience in that, but not on a more of a bar. This is a very small bar that it doesn't have any seating except in the back where it has some seating bench. There would be a bench on the right hand side with a small bathroom in the back. And so there was previously a cafe that was being operated without a license. It was not serving any type of alcohol. That person left. And so my client decided, since it's right next door to the smoke shop that he operates, that he can convert that into a bar. The menu is very simple, sandwiches, salads, soups, just basically appetizers type of things. I don't know, he's got extensive experience in having other liquor licenses, beer licenses for retail stores, that he hasn't had any experience, any kind of adverse effect with the liquor authority. The door, the French, it is an open door. That's how it was constructed in the beginning. Basically 20 seats, 8 at the bar. I think my client is there as well on the phone.
And who's that? Can you just let us know who that is?
Gurvinder. Yeah.
Right here.
Yeah, he's on the phone.
Hi, can you just identify yourself so we know who you are?
Can you identify yourself, Gurdeep?
Gurdeep Johnson.
Did you sign in to the chat?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yes, he did.
Can you just, I guess, explain? It's a very tiny space. How you propose to use the space?
I mean, it's basically, again, it's a very tiny, long space, pretty much for the evening hours, afternoon, evening hours, you know, with some food, to try to utilize the space that was already being used as a cafe, which they were actually operating it. They had a person who was managing it, but right before COVID, he left. So we are in the situation where, you know, we have a lease. Our landlord is for the both location. We cannot get out of the lease. And we need to utilize the space somehow. Otherwise, we'll be responsible for the rent.
So can I just clarify before you go on? And I'm sorry to interrupt you, but are you saying that they leased this space already and had somebody managing the space?
Yeah, it was a cafe.
Okay. So but is it this applicant was operating it as a cafe, or somebody else was operating it as a cafe? And now they're seeking to open a bar there?
It was being operated as a cafe, yes.
That's not what I asked, I'm sorry.
No,
so I was asking, I understand it was operating as a cafe, but you said that they have a lease that they can't get out of and now want to open a bar. So I'm just trying to understand, did they operate the existing cafe at that space? And now they want to open a bar there, or were they unaffiliated with that space next door, and it just happens that they have a smoke shop, they're leasing a smoke shop also at the same address in another storefront?
Yeah, the one is, the smoke shop is West, 279 West, East Houston Street, and this is 279 East, East Store. So it was under them. They had leased the cafe from the landlord, but they had given it, they had a manager that was operating it.
How long did they have the lease for that cafe? How long did they own the cafe?
I think it was for a year or two. Gurdeep, how long did you have it until that manager basically decided to end it?
I think he get on, I think it's 8 months now. 8 months right now.
8 months? 8 months, is that right?
Yeah, 8 months that he was operating as a cafe, yes, without alcohol.
Okay, thanks.
But again, he was under us. Obviously, we are the tenant. We have occupied.
Yeah, no, that was the question that I had. Okay. Did anybody sign up to speak who's not a committee member? No?
No,
okay.
I do not
Are
see
there
anyone in the chat. If there's anyone else that would like to speak, please either use the raise your hand function or let us know in the chat.
Okay. Committee members, do you have any questions or comments?
Alex, my comment is that I would not vote to approve a liquor license for that space. It's right next to Heaven's Hot Bagel. If anybody know that, that's a busy place too. And I am kind of perturbed the fact that he was running a cafe there and stuff like that, and now he wants to upgrade it and for the community to bail him out of his mistake that he has made by signing a long-term lease. So on my point right here, I would not vote for a liquor license at that time. Maybe he could go for a beer or wine, but not a full liquor license. And that's
Okay.
my
Thank you,
comment.
Herman. Jesse, Clint, Ellen?
I don't have any questions.
Okay. Clint and
Yeah.
Ellen?
May I say something?
Wait, I'd like to call on my committee members first. I'll give you another
Sure.
opportunity to speak after. Go ahead.
Yeah. So my only, I walk by that location many times a day, and it's not, I wouldn't say that's necessarily a problem block, and Heaven's Hot Bagel is closed earlier. So, but my only concern is, they don't have any license experience, and for an unlicensed location with no license experience and then asking for 2 a.m. hours, I think that's kind of a big ask. And even though that stretch of that block is not bad, we have the traffic coming down, the pedestrian traffic in the evenings coming down Clinton Street. So that's my concern.
Okay. Ellen, did you want to say anything?
I had one question, and that's the one that you asked, and I was just
Sure.
curious about the
Sure.
cafe, place that sold non-alcoholic beverages to one that, hopefully will sell alcoholic beverages, and I was wondering why that was, but it's been answered.
Okay. All right. You wanted to say something else before we moved on to whether or not we can make a resolution? Go ahead.
Yeah, basically this location, I believe, was an architect office or some kind of an office, some kind of a different type of a retail space or something that was not a cafe. My clients had the intention, to open up a cafe, and then they can still do that. They can still probably do that, but again, they've spent a lot of money in order to build similar to like a cafe with a bar. And so I don't think that there is any type of an issue since they're operating a business right next door. They have other businesses in the area as well. Gurdeep, would you be able to tell me other stores that you have next door around there? If I could pull up the application.
Empire Convenience, 57 First Ave.
Okay, what else?
Avenue B Beer and Cigar. It's 206 Avenue B.
Yeah, and then what about, I see that you had a restaurant, what is it, dining place at 296 Bleecker Street in New York?
Yes. Which one? Indian restaurant you had.
Yeah, it's on the Bleecker Street, the West Village.
Yeah, that was back in 2009, and then you operated for a while, and then you basically sold that business. That's what I see from the history here.
And when was that, the selling of the business?
When did you sell that business, Gurdeep? I see here that you filed it in 2009 with the Liquor Authority. I don't remember when you sold it.
2011 or something.
2011.
Okay.
So you operated for 2 years.
Okay. All right. So I agree with Clint and Herman. I do have concerns about like the proposed hours, the size of the space, the giving it a full license, and the giving it to somebody who doesn't have license experience except for the retail sale of beer. So I don't know whether or not we can modify it to make it an approval of some sort, or whether or not it should be a denial, but I'm happy to hear from my committee members about either.
I'm not opposed to something there. I just don't know if I'm not really, given, as you said, they only have, retail sale of beer. They don't have really any. Now, did you have a full liquor license or any liquor license at the Indian restaurant you managed?
Yeah, full liquor license.
So
I don't
2 years experience in 2009 and 11. Go ahead.
I'm not quite understanding quite how this bar is it they're sitting at the table. I'm sorry, I know you went through the numbers, but this space is so small. And
it is so small, and I said that it's not. If you look at the diagram, it said 1 table, 12 seats, and I think he also spoke to it. But on the diagram, it's actually just a bar and a sofa with seats, with the sofa seats, and he said that's a bench.
yeah, I got the bench.
So,
Okay.
so the back is like a lounge seating of a bench or sofa, and then the bathroom.
So is the idea, I guess I would ask the applicant, is the idea that people are standing at the bar and they'll just stand at the bar and order drinks, and then, or if they get there earlier, if they can sit down, they'll be people sitting down and people standing at the bar.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so there's a bar and then some seatings of 12 seats in the back. So if they wanted to sit down, relax a little bit, so they would have some seating area in the back. But it's it's a very narrow, small space. I mean, it's not, it's not.
You do have bar seats. Okay, I see.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, where we've considered something similar, it's already for an unlicensed space. It's been somebody who's had experience operating licensed businesses and earlier closing hours. So I would just ask us to consider, whether or not, if we're going to give it a full license, the hours of operation are appropriate, or whether or not we can't issue the full license. But I mean, if anybody wants to speak to it being approved with the proposed elements of the operation as it is, then speak to that also. And then I think we need to go to the making of a resolution. So I can also ask for a straw poll in favor of something or opposed. So I'm going to do, I'll do in favor of approving this with some kind of stipulation. So it would be approving a full license with some kind of stipulations, perhaps not the stipulations that are proposed here. Okay. All in favor? See Clint and Jesse. Okay. Ellen, did you weigh in on that? Because I can't see you at all.
Yeah, I mean, if there are earlier closing hours, I would find that.
And Herman, you're still opposed?
I'm still opposed to a full liquor license.
Okay. Since 3 of the 5 of us want to go to the making of resolution with maybe different closing hours, then why don't we do that? Okay. And I can give you the whereas clauses for the resolution, and then we should just go to what the stipulations would be, right? So this would be what the applicant is proposing, which is to apply for a full on-premises liquor license. What the proposed elements are, as I stated them when I summarized the application, that this is a previously unlicensed location, that there are 8 full on-premises liquor licenses within 500 feet, as well as 2 pending licenses per lamp, that the applicant has no license experience, but has experience operating convenience stores and smoke shops that have retail beer licenses, and one of the principals has management experience of a restaurant, 2 years management experience of a restaurant with an on-premises license, and the applicant operated the location as a cafe with no license for 8 months before this application. And then it would be whereas clause, I guess we should say that this is an unlicensed location, but located on East Houston Street, which is a wide avenue. I can't say 279 whether or not it's zoned residential, but it probably is, because East Houston is mostly zoned residential east of First Avenue, but I can check the zoning. That doesn't necessarily change the character as a wide avenue. Given those circumstances, and that this is a very small space with I would say, a limited impact on the community. And I'm sorry, is the facade going to be fixed with just the open door? This is a question for the attorney or the actual applicant.
What was
It's
that?
going
I'm
to be
sorry.
like plate glass, the facade with just an open door, the entrance door.
Yeah,
Yes.
the door
Changing the
opens up.
facade.
The door
door
opens
Okay.
up.
open up.
Yes.
What do you mean the
Alex.
whole thing opens up?
Like it's a three separations at the door. We can open it all the way.
So you have
So-
accordion doors
Yes, they have.
Yes.
They do.
that open the facade. Okay, that's great. All right.
And
That's
Alex,
actually a specific question on the questionnaire that wasn't answered. Go ahead.
the zoning is R8A,
Thank you.
so it is residential.
Yeah, yeah. So I guess the reason for approving this would be because you believe that the impact will be limited because the space is so small, and the applicant has operated a business at this location for 8 months and has operated a convenience store with a retail sales license since 2018. In that case, you would approve it, I guess, with a modification to the hours of operation, and then you just have to go through the stipulation. So what would the stipulation would be? It would be a tavern. We don't have specifications for, would the food service be all hours? Mr. Trivedi, is the food service all hours? That question wasn't answered.
Yes.
Yes.
So it would be less than a full service kitchen or a prep area with serving food all hours. No outdoor space. The recorded background music, no promoted events, scheduled performances or covers. And then there has to be, I guess, you addressing the hours of operation. So what were you proposing that the hours of operation would be? Go ahead, anybody? Anybody who's in favor of the application. So.
I would say, I mean, what were their opening hours? They were 10, was it 10 a.m.?
Well,
12 p.m. to
12
12 a.m., 12 p.m. to 2 a.m.
12 to 12, okay. I mean, I would say, you know, given their lack of experience and given that it's on a wide avenue, but it's around the corner from Clinton Street lined with bars, I would say 12 to 12 at the moment.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Okay. So recognizing where it's located, but also understanding the applicant's lack of experience, you would just limit the hours of operation. So it would be closing at 12 a.m. all days. And then the hours of operation would be 12 p.m. to 12 a.m. all days. Is that right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Unless,
So
now here's a
I'm
question.
speaking to the committee. I'm sorry, we're
yeah.
just looking at a resolution.
I actually have a
Go
question
ahead.
for the applicant though. I think on their, looking at their menu quickly, I thought they had, did you have some breakfast items listed? No, sorry. I was thinking of it, but I don't see it. Yeah, so that's fine. 12 a.m. I just was going to ask them if they had breakfast items listed, if they wanted to have earlier hours other than 12 p.m. But
No.
All right, and then the facade would be closing at 10 p.m. Is that right?
yes,
No pub crawls or party buses, no unlimited drink specials with food, no alteration without first coming before us, no wait lines, and there would be staff outside to oversee noise and crowds. Do you want to speak to the necessity of security or ask them about that? Because that's an element of the application.
I don't think there would be any need for security at this. I mean, it's such a small space. It's not going to be a club. It's not going to be, I mean, what was their capacity? It was tiny.
The capacity, even though it's tiny, it says it's 74 or
74.
it says CFO 75.
74, yeah.
Will there be
Okay.
or drink specials?
They didn't answer that question. So were you proposing to have happy hours, and then what would they be?
No happy.
This is for the applicant or the attorney for the applicant or representative for the applicant?
Gurdeep?
No happy hours. Right?
No happy hours. Okay.
So no happy hours. All right.
In terms of the security, I mean, what was your original presentation, or what was your thought about security?
it's a small place. The gathering won't be that much since the seating isn't that. So security won't be much concern.
Okay, because what we normally require, we don't, when we say a staff member designated, it doesn't necessarily, we're not referring to a security person. It's normally just someone, whether it's your manager or someone, to ensure that there's no crowds gathering in front of your business on the street, or loitering or smokers, and if they're being loud and blocking the sidewalk. So we don't require security, just someone to make sure the sidewalk is free of crowds.
We'll have some placards like stay quiet and keep 6 feet away, all those kind of, we'll follow the protocols.
Okay,
so,
if there is
so no security.
Who's making the resolution?
I guess I was, or I can.
Okay, who's seconding it?
I can second it.
Okay, all in favor? Ellen?
Aye.
Yes?
Aye.
Yes, okay.
All right, opposed?
No.
Herman and me, so it's 3-2 to 0-0. Okay, and is there so the stipulation has to be sent to you via email. Is there an address that it should go to, an email address?
nt@dtlawny.com. nt@dt.
NT, I got that.
@DT, David Thomas.
Okay, thank you.
lawny.com.
Oh, ny.com. Yeah. Can you also write it into the chat, please?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. We're going to move on now to number 7.
Thank you.
Number 7 is an application for a full license, a new application for a full license at 58 East First Street. Is the applicant here? And the attorney for the applicant, or a representative for the applicant?
Yes, Herb Cabrera appearing, and Stephen Cabrera is with me as well.
Thank you. I already wrote down your name. And then the applicant, you said Stephen Cabrera?
Yes. He's here with me.
Thank you.
So we're appearing on
All
one.
right, so this location has been a long-standing restaurant, a different restaurant. The location was last approved an OP license in September of 2017 with stipulations to operate a full-service pan Latin restaurant, serving food all hours, having hours of 4 p.m. to 12 a.m. Monday through Thursday, 4 p.m. to 2 a.m. Friday, 11 a.m. to 2 a.m. Saturday, 11 a.m. to 12 a.m. Sunday. Not using outdoor space, including not having benches outside, and in fact it's zoned residential, so there can't be an extension of the use to the outside. Installing additional soundproofing, closing the facade at 10 p.m., playing recorded background music, not applying for an alteration without first coming before us, not hosting pub crawls or party buses, having happy hours to 7 p.m., not having unlimited drink specials, not having wait lines and having staff outside, and directing smoking patrons to the opposite side of the street by the First Street Garden. There's no zoning listed here, no C of O, but like I said, the zoning is Ave B. And when I say what the zoning requirements are, they can be modified, during this time by city regulations if they in fact address zoning. I'm just saying what the existing zoning is. 7 tables, 33 seats, a 9-foot bar with 6 stools. The proposed hours are 5 p.m. to 2 a.m. Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 2 a.m. Saturday and Sunday. A kitchen open to within half an hour of closing, serving Latin Caribbean food. French doors and windows, closing at 10 p.m. No TVs, recorded background music, no promoted events, scheduled performances or events with covers. No security, existing soundproofing. And in fact, although it says that, the applicant has been engaged in an ongoing discussion with residents of the First Street Block Association about the installation of soundproofing. No happy hours, no wait line, staff outside. The applicant counted 16 OPs within 500 feet. But submitted a list that had 17 OPs within 500 feet. The applicant has no license experience, no notes experience as a bar back and bartender. Submitted a letter that the business would be a lounge with heavy emphasis on food, and that there would be a person responsible for moving patrons outside who are standing there for more than 5 minutes. And also included in that statement was a belief that vehicular traffic would not be an issue. The First Street Block Association submitted a letter expressing concern about the insufficient soundproofing. And this is a recent letter, so after the ongoing discussions about soundproofing, but that they would not oppose an application if the business closed at 12 a.m. all days, and the applicant continued to work with improving the soundproofing, and which would include working with the affected residents of the building, and the block association included testing, and this is actually one of the proposed stipulations, so it proposed a number of stipulations. Proposed hours of 5 p.m. to 12 a.m. Monday through Friday, and either 11 a.m. or 12 p.m. to 12 a.m. Saturday and Sunday. Closing the facade at 10, playing recorded background music, not having wait lines, having staff outside, not using outdoor space, including benches, installing soundproofing consistent with the recommendations of a sound consultant, and in cooperation with affected residents of the building and block association, which include testing of apartments in the building. Residents of the building also submitted emails, or they CC'd us on their ongoing discussions with the applicant with respect to soundproofing, and are concerned about the ongoing soundproofing and what it consisted of, but been continuing to work with each other. This is your opportunity to make a statement or a presentation with respect to the application. Go ahead.
Thank you. Yes, this is Herb hearing for the KM1 Hospitality. So Mr. Stephen's been working, as you indicated, with the tenant most affected upstairs, Mr. Yee. I understand he's here present, and I know that he's done everything that's been requested of him. I myself spoke with Mr. Yee approximately 30 days ago. At his request, we adjourned this meeting to today. This was originally scheduled for May 8th, I believe it was. Unfortunately, Stephen is my nephew, and I say unfortunately because he had the unfortunate circumstance to sign a lease to these premises approximately a week before the pandemic. I mean, if you're talking about misfortune, that's the worst misfortune possible. On top of that, he does have experience working in a bar setting. He's worked for Bobby Flay's restaurant, 2 of them. One is Mesa Grill, and the other one, the most recent one, is Gato's on Lafayette Street, just approximately 3 blocks from here, where he worked as a bartender for approximately 5 years. So he's very knowledgeable in high-end service to clientele. He's taken Mr. Yee's comments and the Block Association's suggestions. He's hired a sound control, Mr. Dan Presetta, who is one of the recommended sound consultants that CB3 puts forth. He put forward a report. Mr. Stephen worked on soundproofing the ceiling. He used all the recommended materials that appears on your website. Mr. Prasada was available to conduct testing, and the testing required his presence inside Mr. Yee's apartment upstairs. However, because of the pandemic, Mr. Yee's, I don't know if it's his wife or living partner, indicated that she didn't want anybody present inside the apartment, so that couldn't be done. However, Stephen did accommodate Mr. Yee. They tested the sound system after Stephen used all the suggested materials that CB3 put forth. And the only thing that hasn't been done, frankly, is the wrapping of some heating pipes, because Stephen was awaiting the arrival of the rope that's required. This is what Mr. Yee requested. This is what the Block Association requested. The rope, as it happens, arrived today. He could have done it previously, but it was about 5 times the cost. He ordered it online, and it was $100 rather than $500. So that's the only reason why that hasn't been done. My understanding is that there are only 2 speakers inside the premises. And they're small speakers, approximately 12 inches high. The sound level was raised to level 40. My understanding, I wasn't present, but based on the representations, is that there was absolutely no noise coming into the tenants upstairs. We wanted to test it at a higher level with the sound consultant present to see if there was any noise emanating, but Mr. Yee obviously can speak to this as to whether or not there was any noise coming out. So They want him, and of course, Stephen is willing to direct patrons to go smoke across the street. The unfortunate realities of the way this building is constructed, the entrance to the restaurant, which by the way was vacant for over a year. You know, I know that the community planning board frowns on that. You want the place to be occupied. The truth of the matter is that I believe there are over 30 tenants in the building upstairs, and they all come down to smoke in front. I asked Stephen, please do me a favor. The business is closed. Take photos so the community planning board members could see, you know, these are tenants from the building. They're gonna frown upon any of his directions. So it becomes a very difficult thing. But obviously, with regard to his patrons, he's willing to take that step. The further suggestion that the business close at 12 a.m. is not really feasible. He's working from 5 to 2 o'clock in the morning. What is that? That's that's 9 hours a day. If you close it at 12, that's a 7-hour workday. This is a cocktail lounge. And it's focusing on, obviously food is being served, but the focus is providing cocktails where people go unwind after work. I need to correct, and now that I recall, at my request, I asked Stephen, because I looked at the submission to the board, and I suggested that he amend number 8 to permit for happy hour. And I don't know if you received it, because he did admit from 5 to 7, because especially in today's day and age, I don't know how long this business is going to survive given the current situation. And even if you go from phase 1 to phase 2 to phase 3, the occupancy level for restaurants or any kind of dining place is going to be dramatically reduced in the first several months. So it's untenable to say to request the close of an establishment like this at 12 o'clock. Why? Because that presents, I did the quick math while the conferences were going on with regard to the other facilities, because that represents a 22% reduction in the work hours. The kitchen will close approximately an hour beforehand, and last drinks approximately at 1:30 a.m. It's, you know, he's going to be there 7 days a week, so you got to get home at a decent hour. It's my experience in having dealt with this kind of business for 36 years, and I've advised Stephen that nothing good happens after 2 o'clock, and that's why we suggested that 2 o'clock is a good closing time. And he's willing to work, as I indicated, with the tenants and with the block association. And I believe that the steps he's taken show his good faith going forward. And we're still engaged in conversation, but for the life of me, I can't believe that I don't believe that he can do anything further. I don't know what objections they could possibly have at this juncture. Thank you.
Okay. Clint, are there people who signed up to speak?
Yes, there are several people in the chat. Sorry. Yep.
Go ahead. Can you call on them?
So I guess we'll go with the raised hands. We have Marianne Toman.
Hi. Oh, sorry. We got two computers going. I think Robert was planning on speaking first. So if you want to let him go first and us afterwards, that
Sure.
would work for us. But
Sure, that's fine. Robert.
He had said he wanted to speak first.
Robert, if you want to go first.
Robert Kraft, that is.
Okay. Okay. Hello? It still says Marianne. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Robert.
Yes. You know, I got kind of a weak system here. So
That's fine.
I tried to use, I sound good? Okay.
Yeah, you're fine.
I just want to say, and I'm sure you all know this, just for the record, that this location is within 500 feet of at least 15 OPs and is therefore subject to the 500-foot rule. I always like to start out that way. Also, this is the 6th application at this mid-block apartment building on a residential site street. 2 of them, including the last one, Boticario, proved to be a source of miserable late-night disturbance for upstairs residents. So we were hopeful when the applicant, Stephen Cabrera, said he would install soundproofing. Soundproofing, however, proved to be insufficient, primarily from our point of view, because there was no airspace created between the ceiling and the sheetrock that Stephen installed. An airspace is essential to prevent sound waves from traveling through floors. Instead, he used sound attenuating glue and screws to attach half-inch sheetrock to the ceiling. The result was that loud music with bass could be heard by residents in their apartment. When we asked if space was not installed, Stephen and his consultant said it wasn't necessary because music would only be played at low levels so as not to interfere with patrons' conversations. We've heard this before from all previous owners at this location. And our experience has always been that as the patrons come in and the hour gets later, the music gets louder and louder and louder. Phone calls to the manager eventually are ignored or patronized, and residents make visits, late night visits to complain in their pajamas. Closing at midnight is the only way to protect residents from this type of sound. Besides ceiling soundproofing, we asked Stephen to sheetrock one of the brick walls to diminish sound transmission through the brick walls. But he declined, saying that it was against his exposed brick aesthetic and that it would take up too much space. He also agreed to wrap the exposed plumbing pipes in rope to defray sound transmission through them. That was supposed to happen over the weekend, but I don't know if it did. Now I do, because he didn't call me to come over and take a look at the installation as he said he would. So while there is at least perfect soundproofing at this location now, it still depends on the owner maintaining low sound levels. We determined that 40, as was stated by his uncle, 40 was acceptable. And nevertheless, this is why we really need midnight closings 7 days a week at this residential mid-block location, because the sound levels eventually start going 40. So suddenly they're 40, they're 50, they're 70, something like that. That's been our experience. Weekend, I also sent a set of stipulations that set the sound level at 40. He did not respond, except that he emailed me that he was requesting a happy hour provision from the board till 7 o'clock. I'd like to add also that Stephen lacks experience. He is in his 20s, works in the industry as a bartender, and has never owned a bar or a restaurant. I'd like to also add that our position on this matter is supported by 32 Block Association email votes. So we did reach out. That's basically the summary of it. Basically, the soundproofing is not sufficient because there's no airspace, and which it always eventually does, it can be heard in the residents' apartments. So that's why we're saying, please limit the hours till midnight so that whatever is going on there, it's over at midnight. This is a mid-block apartment building on a residential side street. It's on First Avenue or Houston Street. People need to go to bed, know they can go to bed at midnight, you get a good night's sleep and get up and go to work. That's all I have to say. I'd like to, Ting and Mary Ann probably have more specific information on this. Thank you.
Okay, go ahead, Clint, can you call on the next speakers?
Yep. Ting has his hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So, Robert's laid it out. We've oh, I'm Mary Ann. I'm Thing's wife.
My wife.
And we've lived here for a long time. And since, the late 90s, there's been a restaurant of some sort below. And our experience has been the ones that focus on liquor, keep us up at night because they play loud music. And they've all promised us that they're going to be a quiet bistro or a quiet day or a quiet something. So we were really hoping with Stephen that he would, soundproof pretty thoroughly. And he did put that green glue on the ceiling. He did cover one surface with a soundproofing material, but when I looked at the website, we did not see the method indicated on the website. The method that they recommended was different than just, you know, slapping it on the ceiling or gluing it to the ceiling. I don't want to call it slapping, but gluing it to the ceiling. We did have a test in the middle of the day where we had music on, and we listened to it up here, and we could hear it. We asked him to turn it up to what our experience has been with that space, and we could hear it at that space. This was in the middle of the day, so there's lots of ambient noise. Our experience is that it's at night when you really hear it. We get bass, like thump, 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 thump. And so we asked Stephen, you know, well, would you consider doing the wall? Because maybe that would stop the, you know, maybe the sound is hitting the wall. I mean, that's what we think, because we've had a lot of experience with this. The sound hits the brick wall, and that our floor joists are on that wall. And we hear it in the corner where that, and you know, on the side of the apartment, particularly where that is the case. And he just wasn't open to that, or to even installing, I mean, I'm not a sound engineer, but looking it up, there's things called bass traps that, you know, supposedly minimize the sound of bass, and all of these things he was not amenable to. So we're reluctant because, you know, the promise of I'm going to be a quiet restaurant has been one that we've heard many, many times, and it just seems like it would be a lot simpler for somebody to more thoroughly soundproof the space, and then we wouldn't have to have constant negotiations with them about the sound. Is the sound loud? Is the sound not loud? I mean, we, as Robert said, we've gone down there at 2 in the morning and said, you know, your sound is loud. And they say, this isn't loud, you know, but we can hear it. So those are our concerns. You know, if it was closed earlier, we would really not care. If it was soundproof completely, we would not care. But we just don't want to hear the music. And we don't want to not be able to sleep, because that's what happens in our experience. I was a little.
No, you get it. Oh, I'm sorry. You get an opportunity to respond after all the speakers have spoken, which is what I've been doing all night. Mm-hmm. Go ahead. Anything else? Can you wrap it up so that we can move on to whoever else is next?
Smoking outside. We do have, I mean, one neighbor I know of does smoke outside, you know, fairly common, but it's during the day or, you know, in the early evening. It's not late at night. So I don't think it's too much to ask them to be, I mean, because the other problem with restaurants are the people who come outside, sit and chat underneath your window and smoke. And when you're trying to, you know, when you have to get up and go to work in the morning, it's a problem. It keeps you up. Our bedroom's up front, so that's why we're very sensitive. Mm-hmm. So, you know, there are people, or at least one, there's only one neighbor that I can think of who sits outside and smokes. He is a regular smoker, but I've never seen him out there at night, you know, not when it would bother us.
Okay. All right. Clint, is there anybody else?
Clint, is Martha there?
No one has their hand up, but I know Martha, and there was, I think, one other person had maybe, I'm looking at the list right now, but Martha, if you want to go ahead.
No, and let me just say again, the applicant gets an opportunity to respond after all the other speakers have spoken. You don't need to raise your hand. Go ahead. Go ahead, Martha.
I thought Ting was going to speak. Oh, I'm
Ting.
sorry.
I spoke for both of us, I think, unless you want.
No, that's pretty much what I would say. Besides, a number of times I had to go downstairs, not just 2 o'clock, sometimes 4 or 5.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Sure. Go ahead.
Okay. I'm Martha Danziger, and I've lived on the street for like Marion and Ting and Robert. We've all lived on the street for a long time. This place has been, as Robert said, problematic because it disturbed residents. And in the past, it was very common for the landlord to put someone in a commercial space that then drove out rent stabilized and rent control tenants. And that seemed to be what this guy was doing. Come up to Steve, he seems like a wonderful guy. We all want businesses. We want businesses on the street. And he seems like, as his uncle says, he's in a bad situation. He signs a lease and then all hell breaks loose. And as Susan mentioned, it seems like you know, we have no idea what the neighborhood's going to look like. So saying this is a place subject to the 500-foot rule, it's true. There are 15 licenses out there. How many will open, we don't know. But it doesn't change the fact that the uncle's claim is that Steve has to make money. Well, Steve didn't reach out to anybody on the street before he even he signed his lease. The landlord is really the party that should be present, because he used to get 14 grand a month. Now he's getting $9,000 a month for a new business opening post-pandemic or during pandemic, and having no idea how, you know, how the city's going to function with the, you know, social distancing and so forth. I just think he's the guy who should be dragged in here and pummeled. But the thing about Steve, and after talking to him many times with the rest of there was Ting and Marion and Robert, was he did what he thought would be soundproofing. Not that he's an expert. And his sound consultant came in and said, that would be adequate if you operate the way you claim you're going to do that. That's paraphrasing what he said in his letter. And our experience is nobody does that. People, even if they shut at 12, which is uncommon, then the cleaning staff comes in, and invariably they turn the sound up because they're cleaning and they want to stay awake. And so it doesn't shut at 12. It doesn't even shut at 2. It shuts at 2 or 3 or 4 because nobody turns the music down. So the only way to guarantee that this place will operate to the satisfaction of everybody is to have it adequately soundproofed so that Steve could do whatever he wants in there. So until he does that, we didn't want to give him a full OP. Yes, he hasn't had a full OP. You know, he's never had a business with a full OP. He's never had a business. He seems to be a very responsible man, and I hope he is successful. I wish the hell he could, you know, get out of his lease. He even mentioned that had he thought about it, had he known what was ahead, he probably wouldn't have gotten in this, and I feel bad for that. But it is landlord who, both his uncle and he should be arguing with, because the landlord knew about this space, and if he should be soundproof this place for all the tenants. Thanks.
Okay, you have an opportunity to respond to any of those points or comments.
Thank you. First of all, it's not fair, frankly, to say that Stephen is in his 20s. He's 29 years old. You don't have to be 50 to operate a business, Robert, frankly. 29 years old is a mature man who's worked in the bar scene for quite a while under the best, one of the best known chefs that we have. That's number one. Number two, it's a question of fairness. Stephen has bent over backwards to accommodate the needs that you have raised. How, and I say a question of fairness for this reason, how is it fair to have him hire a sound consultant, not have him actually test enter the premises of Mr. Yi to see whether the steps that Stephen has taken are sufficient? The only time, and Marianne did indicate that she could hear the sound, it was when it was raised to its highest level, level 60, 60. Okay, the planned operation is at level 40. So my concern is, when we're talking about fairness, when you've already made this investment and this commitment, when he's shown good faith by not just opening up, but really working with you, how is it fair to not have the man that he hired, that he paid good hard-earned money to consult on the level of sound, not to give him access to the premises, so that he could give an honest and an honest assessment of the level of the sound inside the principal?
I think you need to move on from this point, because I think we all recognize that it's extraordinary times where you might not be. I get that they asked about the sound consultant, but I also get that you don't necessarily know what people's health conditions are. You can't assume that they're just excluding you for unnecessary reasons, and we're in the middle of a pandemic. So I think we get that point. I don't know how much anybody's accredited, but I think we understand it, and you should go to your other point.
But so the biggest issue then is it true? Am I mistaken? Is Steve misrepresenting when we say, Marianne, that the level, you were only able to hear it at level 60? Because we can put a lock, because I understand the concerns that were raised by Ms. Denzinger and Robert himself, that some people make promises that they later do not keep. So we can accommodate that by putting a lock. We haven't discussed that, to make sure that the level doesn't go any higher than, let's say, a level 40 or 45, whatever the level is that can be accommodated. So and we can have that lock in place for the block association to inspect, as well as obviously the tenants most affected, which are Mary Ann and Mr. Yee. But having said that, again, I believe because it is designated as a lounge. Oh, and by the way, Stephen does have experience. He owns his own insurance brokerage company in addition to this. So he's duly licensed by the state of New York. At the tender age of 29, he's already making his mark.
I've been licensed.
Go ahead. What?
I've been licensed since I was 18 for the insurance work.
Licensed since 18.
Graduated from Baruch.
Yeah, he's a graduate of Baruch.
Went to Xavier High School.
I told him early on that he needs to work with the tenants, and he's done that. With regard to Marianne mentioned the sound, that they wanted sheetrock on that wall. That request came through this weekend. He can't work magic. Today is Monday. And we don't know that it's absolutely necessary. My understanding was, Stephen, that you also put soundproofing stuff on the cracks on the wall, on the brick wall.
Yeah. So there was an email that was sent by Marianne, I believe in early May, in regards to sound treatment of the wall. Right, and there were holes in the brick wall that I sealed with acoustic. It's called acoustic sealing, right? It was made by the same company as Green Glue, and it was also on the CB3 website for recommended materials. So I used that to seal any holes that I saw within the brick wall that were there, and that was the treatment I did on it. It wasn't until this weekend that they said that I had to install drywall on the wall.
But I reiterate my question to Marianne, because really we want to be fair, and you're the most affected people. It was a level 60, my understanding, that you were able to hear the noise upstairs. Is that correct?
Marianne, can you answer that question? And then please bear in mind, this is not a back and forth conversation, but rather somebody a discussion that's directed by me when I call on people. So could you answer that question? 57 is that right?
I mean, I was upstairs listening. So at the loudest volume, I could hear it. This is in the middle of the day, so there's a lot of background noise. There's sirens going by. It's, there's a lot of sound. And in our experience, you hear it more at night. We were hoping to get him to come back, and he agreed to come back at night, which, then the curfew happened. So we weren't able to do that. But I could hear the sound when it was at its loudest. They turned it down, and I felt like I was hearing it. 40, I did not hear it. But again, our concern is that we have had agreements with many other operators who say, yeah, we're going to keep it that way. And
I understand that. Thank you.
Thank you. Right?
Mm-hmm. We understand that. Thank you. Okay. So committee, do you have any questions or comments? Go ahead, Clint.
Okay, so a couple things. So yes, you may be licensed as an insurance broker, you may be licensed, but what we're concerned about is you're not only licensed, but you're running a licensed establishment, which is a cocktail lounge, which has people milling in and about and coming out. Working in those restaurants, Gatto and Mesa Grill, that's a different experience than running a cocktail lounge bar underneath a residential building. And we've seen this time and time again. This is not an indictment against you. I'm just pointing out some things that we see month after month. You've both been on since the beginning of the meeting. So you heard the issues we dealt with 78 to 80 East 4th Street and how they worked with the neighbors. They were concerned about the noise above. They went above and beyond with soundproofing. Sound in these old buildings, the brick wall acts as a conductor. Whether you seal the cracks, brick walls naturally act as a conductor in these older buildings, and it channels the sound up through spaces that you may never even imagine. We have that on a regular basis. We've seen it time and time again. The other thing, you mentioned that you would consider a limiter. A limiter is something we almost always require. So that's not, that would be something later in our discussion that would come up. Because the problem is, even with a limiter, someone has the code and the key to a limiter, and we see it time and time again, where the limiter is put in place, the neighbors can inspect it, then some night, there's no one in at the bar, it's 1:30, they think, oh, we're gonna crank it up, and they turn it up, and that's what happens. The other fear you say is, I understand these are tough economic times, but what we see time and time again as well is people come in and they're not doing so well, so they need to do something to make more money. So then they have to try and do stuff. And I understand these are extraordinary times that you're going to have to deal with, but that's, you know, then the onus is on the residents to deal with any complaints. They have to get up in the middle of the night. They have to call the community board. They have to call 311. And, you know, it's not fair for them because a liquor license is not you know, it's not a given. This is something that you have to be, you know, awarded or given by us and by the state. And when there's 500, when it's within the 500-foot rule, there are certain things that have to prove it's a community benefit and especially not a detriment. So we also, you heard, you know, we had one right down the street, essentially on Houston Street, that we asked them to move their hours back to midnight because they don't have the experience. So we don't know what your experience is. We can't point to your experience running a cocktail lounge late at night, managing the crowds, managing the people at the bar, managing the drunk people at the bar. You don't have that. And I'm not saying you're not able to do it. And this has nothing to do with your age. It's just, we've seen this time and time again, and we have to deal with these problems. So those are my concerns.
Anybody else, Jesse or Herman or Ellen? No? I mean, what I will say about this location is, which you've all probably already heard from the residents, that it's not that this is an untested location, but rather that this is the location where businesses have come in representing to be restaurants even, became some kind of lounge-like business, had elevated music, had, you know, patrons moving in and out, and had persistent complaints. The biggest offender was Elephant, and Elephant represented to be a full-service restaurant and then was more like a cocktail lounge, but couldn't control the noise, and the noise complaints were something that we were dealing with on a persistent basis. So, you know, when they speak to the need for soundproofing, I think that's based on years of experience dealing with those other businesses and not having anybody address the soundproofing adequately. And I appreciate that you've been trying to work at it. And obviously it's a continuing thing. You open this business, you are still going to be working at it. It's not something that happens, you know, and it's done and you could move on to finalizing your menu and deciding who you want your bartender to be. It's something that is always going to be an issue for you because as much as there's the soundproofing inside, you're then going to have to contend with the people on the outside, right? So you have to be mindful of that. And this is a residentially zoned street. I know nobody thinks of it that way because it faces Houston in part and a garden in part, but it's residentially zoned with longstanding residents for the most part, you know, who've seen the street undergo a lot of changes because licensed businesses have come to them to replace the other types of businesses that used to be there. I'm going to ask the committee whether or not you want to go to the making of a resolution in support. And I'll ask that first. And then, you know, if there's not a consensus for that, I can ask about a resolution to deny. But at least if we have a consensus, then we can actually move to the elements of the resolution. So how many people are in favor of it supporting with some form of stipulations, whether they're the elements proposed by the business or some kind of modification of those elements? Raise your hand so that I can see. I can't see Ellen's hand.
Yeah, I would ask for a modification of the hours.
Okay, but you're in favor of supporting it in some capacity? Or in some form, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Herman?
Well, considering the fact that, you know, everybody is really so hype in helping small business without looking at the ramification these days of what we're opening ourselves to, I would say that they may approve this application above us. So doing it with a very strict with strict resolutions probably at this point would be the best idea. Although I personally know about the situation on First Street. I mean, time after time, and I would go towards total denying this thing, but I know we probably be overruled somehow. So I better if we go in with very strict resolutions.
Okay. All right, then I'll go to the making of the whereas clauses, and then we should work on the stipulations and what they would be, okay? So again, it would be what the applicant is implying for a full OP, what the proposed elements of the application are, that this was a previously licensed location, last approved in September of 2019, and what that approval was for, the number of licenses, within 500 feet, the applicant's experience, no license experience, but experience as a bartender and barback. The concerns raised by residents because all of the existing, the previous businesses in whatever form caused them to suffer from noise and bass or noise and vibrations, and that they asked that the applicant engage in adequate soundproofing of the space to alleviate that problem. That the applicant has been working with the residents in consultation with a sound consultant to install soundproofing to minimize the complaints of affected residents in the building, and then and also that the residents appeared and expressed concern about whether or not the soundproofing would be adequate because of how it was installed and lack of soundproofing of a brick wall, and that noise could be heard if it's above 40 decibels. Is that right? And the First Street Block Association also appeared, expressing the same concern and asking if there was an approval of this application, that it would be with a series of stipulations, which included the business closing at 12 a.m. To ensure minimization of noise complaints late at night. So, and then I would say that, you know, given although previously licensed, this location is mid-block on a residentially zoned street. And then I guess the last whereas clause would be something to the effect that, you know, given that there are these concerns with respect to the ability to adequately soundproof this space, to allow for the operation of a full-on premises licensed business without complaints by surrounding residents. We would approve hold on, let me rephrase it. Given his lack of experience, given that there have been persistent complaints about this location as a licensed premises, causing residents to suffer from noise and vibrations, and given the concern in the adequacy of the soundproofing, I guess we should also put in about the proposal for the limiter, and we can decide where to put that, that we would approve this, but we would approve it with a modification to the method of operation, and then we should go into the stipulations. So, and I can specify what the modification of the method of operation might be. If it's just with respect to hours, I could put that in, but we can go through what the stipulations are, and then I can go back to that last paragraph. And I can also put in where the applicant has said that he's engaged in sound proofing in consultation with the sound engineer. He's also proposed installing a limiter to limit or set the decibel level of music to minimize noise suffered by residents in the building, affected residents in the building, noise and vibrations. All right, did you want to go to the stipulations?
May
Anybody
I
want to go through them?
I believe there was
Wait,
a,
no, we're in the middle of making a resolution. Hold on. Do you want me to do it?
Do you want me to read through what I have, or?
Sure, you can read through. The hours are going to be the thing I think that we have to address last, but why don't you go through the things that would be, well, why don't I do that? I'll do it. So it's operate a full service Latin Caribbean restaurant. He said the kitchen would be closing at within 1 hour of closing. And then we have to decide whether or not that's something we want to ask of them, or we want to ask that the kitchen be open all hours, which is consistent with almost every other business that we approve at this point.
Yeah,
that the music, there's an open facade. Which would be closed at 10 p.m. or whenever there's any amplified sound. That the music that would be played is ambient recorded background music. There wouldn't be any live music. DJs, promoted events, scheduled performances, or events with covers. There would be no outdoor space, which would include installing benches in front of the business. There would be happy hours to 7 p.m., no pub crawls, no pub crawls or party buses, no unlimited drink specials with food, no wait lines, and staff outside to oversee crowds and noise on the sidewalk. Excuse me. So then we have to go to the hours of operation for the kitchen, the hours of operation in total, and the soundproofing. Do we all agree that smokers should be directed to across the street, which has been an existing stipulation for all of the businesses that have been here, that smokers should be directed across the street to the sidewalk in front of the First Street Garden? Does everybody agree to that one?
Agree.
Okay. All right. So then it's just hours of operation for the kitchen, operating hours, and soundproofing.
Okay.
Does anybody want to speak to any of those?
So
Helen?
hours of operation, I would prefer 5 p.m. to 12 a.m. Sunday to Thursday, and then Friday and Saturday, 12 p.m. to 2 a.m. I mean, that seems to be consistent with what we've been doing.
So it would actually be, because the proposed hours of opening are 5 p.m. Mondays through Friday, and 11 a.m., Saturdays and Sunday. You're then proposing 5 p.m. to 12 a.m. Mondays through Thursdays, 5 p.m. to 2 a.m. Friday, 11 a.m. to 2 a.m. Saturday, and 11 a.m. to 12 a.m. Sundays, which is consistent with what the previous business had, except it opened at 4 during the week. Is that what you're saying, Helen?
No, I'm just saying that in practice, the committee tends to have a 12 a.m. during weekdays, right? And then Friday and Saturday till 2 a.m. or so.
Mm-hmm. Does anybody want to speak to those proposed closing hours? Clint, Herman, Jesse? Do you have alternative proposed hours of operation?
I am cool with what Ellen proposed.
You're okay with what Ellen proposed? Is that what you said?
Yes.
So which would essentially be mirroring the existing hours of operation for the last business?
Yeah.
Okay. With respect to the hours of operation for the kitchen?
Should be all the time that the place is open.
Okay. So it would be the kitchen open and serving food all hours of operation. And then with respect to the soundproofing, so it's already installed soundproofing consistent with the recommendations of a sound consultant. Do you want to adopt the proposed additional stipulation, which would be and in cooperation with affected residents of the building and block association, which would include testing of residential apartments. The other thing that we can do, because so we can require the installation of a limiter that sets the sound at a certain level, but we can also add that sound is inaudible in residential apartments, and sound is inaudible and vibrations are not felt by, residents of the building.
So, I mean, that's one thing I was going to.
With what we ask of most, at this point, most businesses that are really required to install soundproofing in these older storefronts in residential apartment buildings at this point.
It is consistent, and that's one thing that I was going to point out, that I thought these residents were being reasonable in the sense that they weren't actually requesting inaudible. Oftentimes we've had that, as we had with the applicant earlier. So, I don't know. I'm torn on that. If that is kind of what our standard has been, if installing a limiter is going to make the sound essentially inaudible and that's sufficient, I'm kind of torn as to how to leave that, but.
Does it leave things open? I mean, if we're leaving, if the line is, it's inaudible, I think that the residents have been articulate and pretty fair in their expectation and experience. If we say inaudible, whether or not they use a limiter for that or something else, does that, I guess following up on Clint, does that affect the inaudible, like inaudible and a limiter? Do we want to go that far, or just inaudible and however you achieve that?
I mean, we can still say, consistent with the recommendations of the sound consultant, in cooperation, and in continued cooperation with affected tenants and the block association, which would include, testing of residential apartments to ensure that sound is inaudible, and sound would be inaudible in residential apartment, sound and vibrations inaudible and not felt in residential apartments of the building, right? And then it's whatever other than those requirements is necessary to achieve that. So it would be the soundproofing, the continued soundproofing, the continued cooperation with the tenants, whether or not that means continued testing if it's necessary, but it would ultimately, it would be to ensure that that sound is inaudible. Does anybody want to speak to that, or do you all agree? Do you want to amend it?
I mean, I think that's fine. I think it's
okay. All right. So so we went through all of the stipulations. I'm fine with making this resolution in this form since I went through it. Is there a second?
Second. Yeah.
Did somebody raise their hand? Okay. Thank you, Jesse. Sorry, I didn't see. All in favor? I'm raising my hand. I'm sorry, I keep seeing myself breathing, so I don't know if anybody can see my hand. Herman, did you raise your hand?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so that's 5 yes. All right, and where does this stipulation have to be emailed to? Is it herblaw11220@gmail.com? I only ask because it's on your picture.
That's correct, yes.
Okay. Let me just make sure.
Whenever you get a chance, I'd just like to put 2 cents in there.
Sure.
Is this the appropriate time?
Yes. And then we need to move on, sorry.
Well, I'm glad that you mentioned.
There's 3 more applications.
Yes. I'm glad you mentioned that, Stephen wants to work and he wants to cooperate. And we want to make sure that, because we understand, I used to live in a tenement building and there was a restaurant. I worked downstairs. I didn't need to sleep. We get that. So addressing those concerns, we just need, and I understand because of the pandemic, Marianne and Mr. Yee, at some point though, because we want to be fair, we want to have somebody that can measure it. Maybe we can give you the apparatus to measure it. We have somebody objective with objective feedback on that issue. That's all I'm going to say. But thank you to all the committee members.
You're welcome. You've been in ongoing, or your nephew's been in ongoing conversations with them, and those should continue while he prepares to open.
Alex, one last question.
Yes, Robert. Sure.
Will you forward those stipulate? My association has a copy.
Yes, I will do my best to do that. I have to just get them out to be emailed because I have to make sure that they're finalized. But yes, I don't know if that's going to happen tomorrow, but sure. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, moving on to number 8. It's 174 First Avenue. It's the location that was previously Nitapas. It's the applicants for City Orchard Brewing. Are you here? Do you see them?
So no one, I don't recall seeing anyone in the chat signing in from that location. Just double
So
checking.
we can move
sure.
on to the next application and go back.
Yeah, if anyone is here from that location, can you raise your hand or add to the chat?
City Orchard Brewing, 174 First Avenue.
Okay, I don't see anyone.
Okay, so we're moving on to number 9, Temakase. It's 157 Second Avenue.
Okay.
He is here.
Okay, can you just introduce yourself so we know who you are?
Hey, can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
We can.
Yeah.
Yes, okay. I'm Leron McCallie, speaking
Okay.
for
I'm going to
Temakase
call on you in just a moment. I just need to go through the application. I just wanted to make sure we knew who you are and
Sure.
where your voice is coming from.
No problem.
This location was last approved, an OP license in May of 2018 with stipulations to operate a full-service American-Mexican restaurant serving food all hours, having hours of 5 p.m. to 12 a.m. Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 2 a.m. Saturday and Sunday, not using outdoor space, closing its facade at 10 a.m., although I think it's fixed. Playing recorded background music, not applying for an alteration without first coming before the community board, not hosting pub crawls or party buses, not having unlimited drink specials with food, having happy hours to 8 p.m., not having wait lines outside, and having a staff person outside to control crowds and noise on the sidewalk. The OP license was issued November 1st of 2018. I don't believe the business was very long lasting. With the exception of the first one, I don't think most of the OP licenses that have been in this location have been very long lasting. The applicant is proposing 2 tables and 22 seats. There's no answer about the bar or stools, but the diagram reflects what appears to be 2 sushi bars and 1 stand-up bar, but I couldn't tell what their sizes were or whether or not the seating was only at those bars or anywhere else. A prep area, the proposed hours are 12 p.m. to 12 a.m. all days. It says windows. I don't know if they're fixed or open. No TVs, recorded background music, no promoted events, scheduled performances or covers, no security, no soundproofing, no pub crawls or party buses, no happy hours, no wait line staff outside. The applicant counted 28 OPs within 500 feet and has operated a poke shop at 1720 Sheepshead Bay Road since November of 2018. That says it has a license pending. When I look at it on the SLA website, the applicant submitted, I guess, what's akin to a statement of public interest saying that its existing business is popular and that this business will have the same method of operation, will be offering food in a quick bite style, that there is already was an OP license at this location and that an OP license would complement the type of food that it serves. Okay. That's a summary of the materials I had. This is your opportunity to make a presentation or a statement with respect to your application or clarify anything that I said in summarizing your application that might have changed or is different. Go ahead.
Yes, okay. So Temakase is basically a new sushi concept that we're bringing to the neighborhood. There's not many of them around. It's essentially a QSR sushi concept that consists of 2 separate sushi bars. Basically it recreates like a upscaled omakase sushi restaurant that exists all over, but this one particularly is just serving hand rolls. The purpose for the liquor license, we have two sushi bars, of which both have 11 seats and one sushi chef. And then aside from that, we have a small liquor bar that will be used as a wait area. There are no seats at the liquor bar, given the fact that it is a quick service restaurant. Our concept is built around fast turnaround and high volume. The average customer sits for approximately 20 to 30 minutes, more so on the 30-minute side. And we focus more on, again, the high volume. This is my second restaurant. I have one, as you mentioned, in Brooklyn. And we did get approved for a liquor license there and a beer and wine license, just to be clear. The only thing holding it back is the landlord wasn't able to give us or present a C of O, considering that they're having some issues with their building. They had some violations on the building, and it's pending because of that. So outside of that, again, we did get approved for the beer and wine license there. And yeah, I mean, it basically the hand roll bar concept, there's actually only one other one in Manhattan, and we would be the second one. We noticed that it's catching on, and it's a new concept that brings high-end sushi for an affordable cost, because otherwise the same type of sushi would be, you know, like $100 to $150 ticket, where we're offering that for, you know, 30 to 40 bucks. And that's really what the concept is about. As you mentioned, there is going to be background music. It's not going to be loud. And then other than that, so the liquor bar is will be used as a waiting area to avoid forming lines outside. That will be allow us to hold customers waiting before they get seated. And that's basically it.
Can you, before we go on to questions from the other committee members, just clarify what the sizes are of the sushi bar? I know you said what the seats are and the sizes of the stand-up bar, because that's not included in your application, although it's a question.
Sure. So the sushi bars, they're going to be 11 seats each. Each of them is approximately 20 feet in length. They'll be like L-shaped, so there'll be 2 seats on the end side, and then 9 seats across for each sushi bar. For the liquor bar, we decided not to put seats. The reason why is because, again, we don't want the, you know, 1 to 2 hour experience to you know, that doesn't go with our concept. Our concept is more so, and again, I will say about the type of food, if anybody's ever had hand rolls, you really can only eat about 3 or 4 of them before you actually start to fill up, and it happens pretty quickly. So yeah.
Can we just focus back on the answer to my question, which is what is the size of the stand-up bar?
The stand-up bar is 8 feet.
Okay, thanks. All right, and can you also just speak to how the full license fits in with this quick serve high volume hand roll model?
Well, the full service concept fits in with our concept because, you know, in the location that we're in, it just seems like having a full service liquor bar is very beneficial to just the business itself. And we just want to be able to offer that considering where we are. And that's basically what it is.
So you're just saying that the location, you feel like being in the location requires that you have a full license, as opposed to like Sheepshead Bay Road where you have the beer wine license?
Well, I will also say that the location on Sheepshead Bay Road is it's a 2-concept restaurant where it's a hand roll bar is secondary to a poke bowl restaurant. It's called Poke Stop. And the hand roll bar that I built inside a Pokestop was because I had the space to do it. And that gave me the proof of concept to know how to operate and function with a hand roll bar, which is what we're getting into now. So we didn't need a full service liquor bar in Sheepshead Bay. It's a very different concept. And we believe that for this one, it'll definitely help. But although, you know, obviously food is the primary purpose of our restaurant.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Any questions from any committee members? So Herman, Ellen, Clint.
I don't know.
I mean, the hours are limited here at the previously licensed location. My only concern is the, you know, the high volume, quick bite concept that as a rule, we're sort of opposed to attaching to a full license since it doesn't seem to fit. And the idea doesn't really sound right, but
well,
I'm willing to hear it. I did ask how it, you know, the liquor license complements the specific model, but I mean, I got the answer I got.
I think I agree with you that normally, you know, quick bites, takeaway, we don't really, but you know, his description, and maybe he could give us a few more words about it, but it doesn't really seem, you know, I think it is a sit down hand roll type restaurant where it's not as much as what we would consider like a, you know, quick bites. As some things are counter food. So I guess maybe if you,
maybe he can clarify that it's higher end as well as, you know, more artistic and creative in some ways, but it's not like quick bite as in fast food. So perhaps a clarification would be good, and also maybe an example of type of alcohol that might be unique to your establishment.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. So in terms of the concept and why we consider it a quick service restaurant is because the you know, duration of how the average customer enjoys our experience is, you know, really within, as I mentioned before, just 30 minutes. So you sit down and you're essentially handed your food right away, which kind of, you know, fits into the quick service restaurant. And in terms of the liquor that we'll be serving, more or less, I mean, we're going to keep it pretty basic. And, you know, we're going to try to bring in like a, you know, mixologist and do certain like cocktails and stuff like that.
So I have a question about the menu you had included in your application. Is that the menu for this location, or that's the menu for your other location?
That's actually the menu for my other location, which will be, you know, relatively close, if not almost the same as the one I have there. And
because I didn't
actually,
really, I didn't see the hand roll component necessarily in this, in the menu that you had in your application.
So maybe it wasn't clear in the menu and the way it's presented, but essentially items like tuna, salmon, toro, you know, blue crab and lobster, everything that's on the menu there, it is a hand roll. The only item that's not a hand roll on that menu is, you know, one side dish that we offer.
So I don't know, maybe you're just, maybe it is, but like it specifically says bowls and create your bowl and like it's, so I don't know if you maybe have the wrong, you're not sure. It specifically says bowl, create your own bowl, add your toppings, and then it's done.
Yeah. So then now it's clear to me that there was a mistake.
Okay.
That's, yeah.
So does the statement say it's going to be the same as the poke shop?
Oh, well, no, what I was saying is that, okay, so we sent, I guess we sent you the wrong menu. And the one that you have is for the poke bowls that we offer, whereas the hand roll bar in the back of my poke bowl restaurant is a different menu. And that's the one that should have been sent to you. It's very small. Yeah.
That's what was going to be similar. So that's why in your statement you said it was similar, but it was going to be similar to that portion, not the bowls.
Correct. Well, it's going to be nothing to do with the bowls.
Yeah.
Everything to do with the other part of it.
Okay.
And I'm happy to send that menu over as soon as we get off this this call here.
Herman and Jesse and Ellen, any comments or questions? And then we should try to make a resolution.
No, I'm good.
Okay. Does anyone want to propose stipulations for a resolution? I can propose the whereas clauses.
I can.
Okay, so it's going to be, you know, what the application is, what the elements of the application is, what the stated public benefit is, that there are 28 full OPs within 500 feet, what the applicant's experience, stated experience is, that he's operated a similar business in Brooklyn since November of 2018 with a beer license pending. And that what the, and I'm sorry, after the elements of the application, what the location was last approved for.
Okay.
And when the license was issued. Go ahead. So, you know, then there should be a last whereas clause reflecting if it's an approval, why we're approving it. And then the stipulations if we're voting on stipulations.
I think I would say, yes, the last whereas clause, we would be approving this based on the, you know, reasonable / limited hours for an already licensed location. He has ran a similar business, you know, pending a liquor license or wine beer license. And, you know, it is a limited size. He's not having a, you know, stand-up bar component. It's, well, he's having a stand-up bar component, but his restaurant seems to be geared toward the food component of it, and the drinks were to complement the food. So I guess the stipulation is that they will operate a full-service restaurant.
Could I just ask Clint, before you make the stipulations, that with respect to that, look, I have mixed feelings about approving it. I feel like the concept is very weak, but I'll approve it. I can't approve it if it actually says you think that the alcohol complements the food. But if you say that what he's proposed is a high-end hand-rolled restaurant, where he's saying that full license would, I mean, he said that he's proposing operating a high-end hand-roll restaurant. I think you can leave it at that. Then I think I could approve it.
I like that's a better phrasing of it, and leaving out the, you know, component of the bar and complementing the food is fine. So that was going to be my next question, was the type of restaurant. So we're saying I would operate a full service, high-end hand roll restaurant with the kitchen open and serving food all hours of operation. Or actually, I mean, in this case, it's technically a less than a full service kitchen, but they will serve food all hours of operation to, you know, in accordance with the sushi type.
And maybe what we have to do is just figure out how to take out full service restaurant and leave restaurant.
And leave restaurant because
it's
it's
really
a sushi, so, you know, we have
and
other
we've never
sushi
called
restaurants.
a sushi place with a sushi bar, which is less than a kitchen. We've never called it less than a restaurant.
Yeah.
I mean, are you proposing to operate a tavern? You identified in your notice, it says tavern, not restaurant.
Well, what I will say is that it's nothing like the other restaurants that most people have, or rather the other sushi bars that most people have experienced. It's very much different than that. The only thing we serve is hand rolls, with exception to 1 or 2 side dishes, but otherwise the concept and the experience is significantly different than like a regular sushi restaurant. And, you know, it really is geared around.
But it's not geared toward, it's not you're not planning to operate a tavern bar.
No, I guess you could say that that's not.
I understand that, you know, it's important for you to be creative in your pitches, but for us, we need something that people understand and not create confusion. So
that the SLA understands and doesn't
yeah,
create
right. So
confusion.
I strongly suggest that, you not use marketing language here, but just use descriptions that are clear, that people understand. And
So I think it's fine to say quick serve sushi restaurant because that's what he's proposing. That's what his statement of interest. That's not really consistent with a tavern, which is different from what he's proposing. And his focus is on the food, even if it's minimally focused because it's only hand rolls.
Yeah.
So we're still we'll operate a sushi bar with less than full service kitchen, correct?
No, in the second line, you can just put, we'll operate a quick serve sushi restaurant with less than, so you wouldn't fill in the first line of number 1. You would just check, I will operate number 2, and then put in quick serve sushi restaurant.
That's what it is currently. It's the second one. I will operate a sushi bar with less than full service kitchen.
You can put restaurant instead of bar.
Yeah.
Right, we're not calling it a full service restaurant, and you're saying that there's less than a full service kitchen serving food all hours.
Correct.
So you can check off, I will operate a quick, and you should put quick serve because that's what it is. Quick serve sushi restaurant. Thank you.
Meaning it's not an 8 or 10 course.
I'm sorry to belabor that point, but it's good to have it clarified.
Yep. Okay, and then
go ahead.
Close any front and rear facade doors and windows at 10 p.m. or when any amplified sound is playing, included but not limited to DJs, live music, or non-musical performance.
Is this a closed facade or not?
Yes,
No,
it is.
oh, it is closed? Yeah.
Yeah, there's one window that doesn't open.
It's fixed.
It's fixed, yeah.
Okay, so then.
Okay, so then it would be the second thing, which is a closed facade.
Yeah, and then you will not have DJs, live music, promoted events, any event in which a cover is charged, scheduled performances, or DJs, promoted events, or private parties, correct?
Nothing of that sort, that's correct.
Play ambient background music only, will not apply for an alteration to the method of operation without first coming forward CB3. Will not seek a class, it is a full license, so that doesn't apply. Will not participate in pub crawls or have party buses. Will not have happy hours or drink specials with or without time restrictions. Will not have wait lines outside. Will have a staff person responsible for ensuring no loitering, noise, or crowds outside. Residents may contact the manager owner at the number below, and any complaints will be addressed immediately.
That's correct.
Okay.
Was there any additional?
Did you do outdoor space? I just didn't hear it.
No, I think
It's no outdoor space.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Herman? In favor, opposed, abstain?
Yes, I'm in favor.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Herman. All right. And where should this be emailed to?
Can I put my email address here in the
Yeah,
chat?
sure. Yep.
Yeah, if you just drop it in the chat, we will have a record of that.
I'm sorry, is that L dot?
Yes,
So I know?
l.mcally@gmail.com.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to number 11. Thank you. We're going to email that to you since
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks.
we're in this format. Okay, moving on to number 11. It's an application at the location that is Nurse Bettie at 106 Norfolk Street. It's an application for a tavern. This appears to be the application, and the applicant can speak to it when I call on him or his attorney. An application by the manager to take over the existing business and maintain the method of operation and business name. This location was approved a wine beer license in July of 2003, provided that the applicant come to a method of a memorandum of understanding with the 106 Norfolk Street Tenants Association. Excuse me, I just have to my pet brought me a toy and I just had to throw it away so she would chase it. Was denied an upgrade November of 2003, denied an OP license in December of 2008. At some point got an OP license. I think the license was actually issued in December of 2003. I wrote it down here. I think it's December 2nd. Yep, December 2nd of 2003. We heard for renewal with complaints in December of 2010 of loud patrons outside, patrons outside drinking and tables outside, as well as violations of illegal cabaret and excessive noise. But no action was taken based upon the representation of the applicant at the time that they were working to correct the problems. With respect to the outdoor use, it's not permitted under the current zoning, which is R7A. This is an application with a C of O of 74 with 2 tables, 12 seats, a counter with 4 seats, and a bench seating 3. Proposed hours are 6 p.m. to 4 a.m. all days. A 23-foot bar with 9 stools, a prep area serving pub-style foods. That's on the application, all hours. Closed facade, no TVs, recorded music and DJs at background level. There's no information about the frequency of the DJs, no promoted events, scheduled performances, or covers. 2 private parties per month, although the applicant, I think, wrote that they're not sure that they would even have those. 1 security guard Wednesdays through Saturdays. No answer about soundproofing, no pub calls or party buses. Happy hours to 10 p.m., no wait line staff outside. The applicant counted 13 OPs within 500 feet. I also counted 3 pending OPs on the lamp map. The applicant lists no license experience, but notes that the applicant has been the general manager of the business since 2006. Excuse me. Okay, now's your opportunity to make a presentation or speak to the application in any way if you want.
Hello, good evening, guys. My name is Steven Schuler. It's good to see you. Yeah, I'm just, I've been acting, GM here since 2006. My friend and the current, member, he's decided to no longer continue, and, I'm going to assume, ownership of the establishment. So there's going to be no change to, it's going to be business as usual. We're just, like I said, just going to kind of, keep doing things as is, no changes, with those complaints back in 2010, obviously a decade ago, and those things were addressed, have a good standing in the neighborhood. Now with, the 7th precinct, go to community council meetings, the neighbors, and we're just, looking to kind of basically, just changing the ownership of the establishment.
Good evening, everyone. How are you all?
Hello, sir.
I thought, Frank, you were just hanging out, not actually with him even,
Well, Stephen George, so I'm like, I'll sit back. My only correction.
Usually Frank takes the lead on everything.
According to the SLA's website, it looks like 2004 was the OP issuance. I'm looking at it on my phone.
Is that what it says? Because even when I went on the lamp, used lamp, it's not, doesn't even reflect this business. It only reflects Clandestino, the 102 and 106, the 2 businesses owned by the same people, and then the license that the woman still holds for the location that is taking over the other 106 storefront. So I didn't even see Nurse Bettie.
Yeah, this isn't, I didn't do this application originally, but the filing date was February 3rd, 2004. It must have been approved in 2004 at that point. So,
okay.
But otherwise, yes, it's the same exact operation. There's no changes. Stephen's been the manager there since 2006. He's basically taking over.
What's the frequency of the DJs? How often do you have them?
I mean, it varies. We don't really have a regular schedule, but I would say, maybe 4 to 6 times, a month.
Okay. And you understand, you said you have a good relationship with the community and
yeah, very good. I mean, I live on
go to the community council meetings, but you understand the zoning restricts and I'm just referring to the zoning, right? I'm not referring to how it might be modified by any kind of order or a proposal by the city council or the city or the state. The state actually can't modify the zoning. They could make orders, but they have to be, I guess, they have to be consistent with what the zoning is unless the city allows it. But as the existing zoning is, you can't expand your business outdoors. It's just not permitted because it's residentially zoned.
Yeah, I understand that.
Okay. And that was one of the primary issues, the violations aside, but one of the primary issues with the patrons sitting at tables outside and drinking outside, in addition to the illegality of the drinking outside.
Yeah,
that happened back then. Okay.
Yeah, no, totally understand. Thank you.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions or comments with respect to this application? And I'm sorry, I'm seeing two of Stephen, so it's very confusing. The twins.
Yeah, I was on my computer, but it seemed like the mute. I couldn't unmute myself. So
Yeah, that's why I
went to
have the video off on my phone.
Oh
Then
yeah.
it would be really weird.
I don't know. I can't unmute on my computer, so I just did it on my phone just to cover all my bases. You know.
Go ahead. Any committee members, comments or questions? Do you want me to go to the making of a resolution?
Yeah, I live nearby, and every time I walk by, I've never seen any issue or been any issues, so I'm good with this.
So I guess the only thing, and I guess it's not an issue, and I just want to question. So you checked off scheduled performances, so you're not having, your I guess burlesque is not a scheduled performance. It's just there to complement the business, right? You're not actually having shows specifically.
Correct.
Because you actually can't have scheduled performances in a residentially zoned location. So I get that it's an existing business, but that would be contrary to the zoning.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So residential zoning doesn't permit scheduled performances or events with cover fees.
And you check both of those off on the application, so I assume that's not an issue.
Right.
Okay, I'm fine with everything else.
Okay. Anybody else? Ellen, Herman? Okay.
Fine.
So, all right. So this is a proposed application for a full license. The second paragraph is going to outline the elements of the application. That this is a hard to tell what resolution is relevant for us with respect to this business, because it represented to be a number of things at the beginning of its life that are not consistent with what it is or the name, the corporate name or actual name it has. So it looks like we denied an upgrade for this business in November of 2003. We approved it for a wine beer license and then denied it for an upgrade in November of 2003. And a license was issued for it. A full license was issued for it in 2004. Did the business change, Frank? What you know about the filing of the OP license happened in 2004, or the filing of a new license happened in 2004?
It looks like it's the same
Just so I
corporate
know the
name,
history.
so it's an upgrade, it looks like.
Yeah, because it was like a coffee shop. That's why I said, the information that we had at the beginning of the inception of the business's life is not the same as what it actually is, or has been for most of its life. That what the number of licenses are within 500 feet, that the applicant has no license experience, but notes experience as a general manager of this business since 2006 and proposes continuing the method of operation of this business and business name. Given that the applicant has been the longtime manager, is proposing to maintain the business name and method of operation, and that, and I guess I'll put this as a whereas clause, we're unaware of any recent complaints. Or violation history regarding the business, given these circumstances. We would approve with stipulations governing its method of operation. And so then they would be a tavern with appropriate serving food all hours. The hours are 6 p.m. to 4 a.m. all days. Is the facade fixed or, oh, it's fixed, right? With a closed facade, no outdoor space. Recorded music and DJs at background levels, but no
Correct.
live music, promoted events, scheduled performances, or events with cover fees. And DJs no more than 6 times per month. Is that fair?
Yes.
No alteration without first coming before the community board. No pub crawls or party buses. No unlimited drink specials with food. Happy hours. Are the existing happy hours really till 10 p.m.?
It is, yes.
And
It doesn't
till
cover
10 p.m.
everything. I
will
mean,
it-
it's a limited
Go ahead.
offering. It's a limited offering. You know, but yeah, it does go till 10.
Okay.
I mean,
No wait
we
lines. Go ahead.
Nope. Oh, I was just gonna say we fluctuated it over the years, kind of playing, you know, with what model kind of works best, you know, for our customers,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and that just seemed to kind of, I don't know,
Okay.
seemed to work. I don't know, probably work. Now the neighborhood has changed so much, you know, a lot more money around, so probably change that, but.
Used to be.
No wait lines and staff outside. Is there a second for this resolution or any amendments?
I'll second.
Clint did it first this time. All in favor?
Fine.
All in favor?
Yes.
Is that everybody?
Yes.
Ellen?
Aye.
Okay. Okay. So Frank, I already know your email address, so I don't need to ask you.
Have a great month, everybody.
Okay, you too.
Thank
You too.
Thank you,
Take care.
guys.
Bye.
Thank you.
We have one more resolution before we vote to adjourn with respect to number 8.
For a non-appearance.
And I just propose we do a similar resolution to last month, which is it's applying for a wine beer, what it's proposing to have, what the location was last heard for, that it failed to appear. And given that it failed to appear and we were unable to review the application, we would deny this application. Right? I'm sure it was true and we just don't know it. And then I'll modify the resolution. So for number 8, let me just write it down somewhere where I have clean paper. Yeah. All in favor?
Aye.
That's everybody? Okay, so
Okay. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Okay.
does anybody want to raise anything before we sign off? Since we're still engaged in this virtual lifestyle.
Okay. So
Is anybody going back to work?
if we've adjourned, I'm going to stop the recording.
Yes.
Go ahead.